'Cause I want Wu to have that Star Bomb. Well, I'm not. I shouldn't be worried about Star Bomb. Should I? No, you know what? I should give Wu Ox King, shouldn't I?
That is your stream. There it is.
Hello, live. I have dim sum. It is delicious. Some dim.
Oh, they want OG plug suit too.
Also,
Yes, because attack up. Raw attack up.
why is that the first thing? Go away. There we go. Well, the odd thing was, is like as soon as I hit the share, like this pop up came up. I was like, "Oh, switch to 3 months." And it's like, can you not put that at the top? That's cute.
Nope, didn't get a buster. Withdraw. I don't need a buster on turn 2, do I? Or do I need it on turn 1 and 2?
Turn 2 on is actually.
Just gonna ignore that. I don't need that many turns. I need more Merlins on their support list. Surfmo and Matahari.
Happy birthday, Matahari, by the way. My phone. What CE do you want on Merlin?
Probably
Oxen
Ox
King?
King. Yeah, I was about to say Ox King's probably the way to go.
And then you're
No, actually, I mean, Ox King probably is the best one, but the problem with the damage C in this case is it's actually a type up. And not power mod.
I mean, do you think double quick would be enough? No, because I'm not getting Buster crit.
I have no idea. I'm not a smart man.
I need the Buster crit because of Merlin. I understand now. Because I have like 250% Buster up.
Also,
Yeah,
Summer Scotty.
Yeah, so it's Summer Scotty plus double Merlin equals massive Buster up crit. That's why.
Mm-hmm. Have fun, Cad.
Have fun thinking me. Have fun thinking me.
Hi.
Hello, chat. I just got the tweet out. Do me the favor. Go give it some love. It is prepared and ready for you. Let me grab you guys today's sauce. Okay. Hello, everybody. Let's get this started. Oh, that's not the right button. How's it going, everybody? I am fading out of existence. Oh, right. I know why. Because I rebooted. Give me 1 second. Let me fix that. I hard rebooted the computer because of yesterday's recording issue. So I don't know if you guys watched the Hunting Quest video or if you were here when it was recorded, but it was not good. It was absolutely not good. Let's sharpen myself. Let's saturate myself. Okay, should be good. It's still blurry. I think it's the chroma key. But that'll have to work for now. I did get a haircut, chat, so you guys can see it's not the best. Actually, God, yeah, she slicked my hair over to the other side. I'm not used to it being to this side. I've been slicking it to the other side now for a while. But it's definitely nice to have short hair again because it's still hot, still summer down here. Here is today's artwork. Oh my god, a human head. Yes. Wait, did I not? I'm so confused. I literally remember typing this in already, so maybe I'm just insane, but there's today's artwork. Oh, that's why. It's on the wrong. And there it is for you guys over there on YouTube. I hope everyone's doing good. Hope everyone's having a good day. Thank you to the follow I had while we were offline. Neo and Creamy, thank you guys for the resubs for the 74 and 80 months respectively. God dang. That's a lot. Let me get this plugged in and we should be good to go. If she's buffed up correctly? I mean, yeah. Yeah, there are 4 hours left in the event. Do your CQs. Get your stuff done. Buy out your shop. Do everything you need to do. I think I'm good here. I was actually on the side. This is the alt account. On the side, I've literally just been doing interludes. So I think, yeah, I've done all of my interludes now. So I'm actually at a point that I need to spend AP doing like story and stuff and getting people bonded up. So that is what it is. But we're just going to go ahead, just make some blapples here real fast. Should get that account under control here for the moment. Let me roll FP as well. Got a lot of Dragon Reverse skills. Nice. Yeah, there is the Summer Scotty. Oh, I guess I already rolled. I was here on my lunch break, and that's how the 3 runs already got done. Chat, that is so freaking tempting. That is so freaking tempting. It do be a good banner. It is. It's a really, really nice one. Not the least of which, like, the 4-star is also really, really solid. Is that filtered to just experience? I have a lot of tickets. Have to go and pull these out one by one because I can't just hit claim all or it'll wreck this account. But I hope everyone's having a good day. Hope your Thursday was good. Hope we get news of JP summer stream tomorrow. Yeah, we should get news of a stream soon. I think they've been focused on Annie and this grand system update for now. The other problem is the Famitsu article doesn't really mention anything about the upcoming summer too much. Like I said before, like I think they mentioned like it's on an island and it's a wholly new island, and that's kind of it. Like we didn't get any like servant info and stuff, which we normally do from the Famitsu interview. So I think they were just really preoccupied talking about the 10 years, and you can see that in both interviews. We're actually going to go over Mr. 2's section of the interview today. We also have Hunting Quest tomorrow. I don't care about them on my main account, but the alt account probably would like them. So there's that. Okay, so I will shelve that at the moment. Actually, let's... so that's not running in the background. Okay. Now on to NA. Even though we were just on NA. I'm just double checking just to make sure on this account that I have everything. I've done everything. I've bought everything. I've even converted all of my remaining currency. So we're not going to run anything there. Have I done my 3 quests? Have. Well. Perfect. Problem solved. Yeah, for the JP. That's 2 servers down. They attached Mexico to Hawaii this time? Please, God, no. Can I say Earth Marie 90 *** fight is utter nonsense? Even with optimizing for the fight, I've been trying to beat it for the last 10 hours. Yeah. Yeah, I believe that, Lucario. And I feel like I told you guys this, and maybe like people didn't believe me, right? Like, I have a good feel for the difficulty of a fight. I've been doing this for years. I've been making guide content for years. I've been talking about it for years. And that's why, like, sometimes when I say some things on the channel, I'm not going to say I'm always right? Like, you guys are welcome to debate me on stuff, and that there's definitely things I could be wrong on, right? And sometimes y'all bring up some very valid points. But one of them that I can really mention is that usually my gut instinct on a fight is correct. I can look at, like, the mechanics that they're putting in a fight, the way in which they're doing it all, and I can judge whether or not that fight is tough for people. And in that fight in particular, one of the big things you'll notice is in the highest difficulty, it's like your units just start getting one shot. And I know that because the second highest difficulty was literally sitting there, like, putting my characters, my fully grailed 120 characters, within an inch of their life. So I knew it had to be a case of like, oh yeah, on the highest difficulty, she just one-shots you. Cat, who is your most recent grand? I wasn't feeling well and missed last night. Bunny. Bunny is the most recent grand. We are in progress granding MHX. Sorry, MHXX. Oh shit, I gotta use those tickets. I forgot about this, chat. Okay, hold on. Let's get in here. Let's do a run real fast. Just so I can get the AP off my back. We're already 6 runs into this, thankfully, and we can literally already one-shot the highest difficulty, so we're perfectly fine. In fact, I think we've been able to one-shot the highest difficulty since I bought literally the arts up for this. So. Okay, I can actually do some mean mac and cheese, I guess. Yeah, I like... All I'm trying to say is, again, I understand how people struggle with this stuff, and I've learned over the years how to judge a fight and its difficulty because we've talked about this so many times. To get people like saying, "Oh man, I struggle with a fight," and then inevitably there's like somebody in chat that's like, "What do you mean? The fight was easy," but like they're rolling around with every unit in the game or like NP5s, and it's like, yeah, I usually when someone says like, "Oh my god, this fight is hard," they're not talking about the person that has every unit in the game. Like, if you have every unit in the game, the fight shouldn't be hard for you, right? Like, if you think about it that way, you have the perfect solution to every node. But that's exactly why I've learned over the years. It's like, to some people, something won't be hard simply due to the gravity of their account, whereas to other people a fight can be hard because their account as well is very young and inexperienced. Similarly, you can have people that just struggle with challenge concepts or people that are really good at figuring them out. It really just depends on the player and their account. Branded on, thank you for the 69 chat. Can we get some nices in chat for Branded on's 69th anniversary? I'm doing good. I hope you're doing well as well, Brandon. My issue is that if people with NP5s are still having an issue, then I can't imagine how it is for free-to-plays. I mean, and there's some things where, like, I'll look at something like that and I'll be like, man, that gave me some trouble. But why did it give me trouble? Did it give me trouble because I got damage checked? Or did it give me trouble because, like, I misplayed? So there's sides to it, and it depends. But that's where it's like, yeah, the manner in which I died is usually a big factor for me determining that. And RNG can make a fight seem a lot harder than it actually is. You can just actually get screwed. I'm also somebody that over the years, I've kind of learned what the likelihood of certain things are. And the only mitigating factor then would be that either your RNG just was hard tilted against you, or that the fight's AI was actually designed to act the way it was. So, like, for instance, oh man, they keep killing my support unit. Why? It literally may be a thing. The fight may be hard-coded for the boss to go after supports. So, when you see something like that, that is naturally something that just increases the difficulty of a fight. So maybe one time is you got screwed by RNG, but if it happens twice, if it happens 3 times, now you go, that's not RNG anymore. That's the way the fight is. I guess we just take a normal Oberon. Zuko, thank you for the 63. Chat, can we get some love for Zuko as well? Got some long time subs coming out now. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the support. Double dex damage has always been great. Yep. I mean, in a situation like this, it looks really good because this is a threat to humanity niche. But outside of this, would double X's damage here be enough? Probably not, actually. Double X has a tendency to punch above her weight class, but still kind of below other people. Mine definitely does a crap ton of damage. It should. I mean, it is basically a perfect double X, right? Like, but at the same time, like if you just had like an NP1 double X, is it going to deal this kind of damage? No, not even if you granded it. But there'd be other things I could do to try to one-shot this. Any thoughts about the Apple economy, considering we're having 10 grinding events this year on JP? It's definitely something that I have thought about, is like again, I didn't go super hard in the lotto. I still did about, what was it, like 250-ish boxes? I think it was a little less than that. So I didn't do a whole lot. But I also just made the conscientious choice that what this account needed more than a lotto was like the statues and monuments, because there will always be another lotto. I don't know the next time we're going to get like a good statue and monument grind like this. Now, these are permanent. They don't go away, but they do take storm pods. So doing this in the future means that there is a cap and you can't like abuse it nearly as much. So that's where like I just said, no, you know what? I'm just gonna go with the thing that like I can actually exploit to my advantage right now. I have to be very careful with my fingers on this one. Don't want to press the wrong button. Let's go like that. But yeah, I think like in general, you just got to pace yourself. It's probably a wise idea to go into year 10 with a lot of like built up blue apples and stuff for that exact reason. But it's not the end of the world if you don't. I don't consider grand fights grinding events. You're just shooting yourself in the foot unless you get a ton of bun grills. I do. I do simply because if you look at this, right? Like, what I'm getting from this is very good. This is basically, without running QPCs, the equivalent of a treasure vault run. I am still getting the occasional statue in here. Now, this is the extra one, so I feel like this one probably is weird for statues. I am getting a ton of ascension mats as well. I am working on my grand. So this is what I've told you guys before, because like let's look at like a lotto, right? If you're a new player, what does a lotto give you? Everything. Lotto gives you like every single part of that box is super useful to you. If you are a veteran player, what do you get from a lotto? That becomes a much more interesting question. FP, QP, Ascension Mats. I'm listing you guys the three that you get. So let me explain. FP is primarily farmed at a lotto. You can get it through other ways and means, but you're not going to get a whole lot of it unless you're doing some pretty scummy shit. QP, I'm going to be honest with you, is actually the most precarious of these three. You literally only need QP to the extent that you recap. You're just filling up your reserve again that you've spent down over the year. Okay? So you can argue this one is not even that big of a deal. And Ascension Mats. This one is also hit or miss because it depends on what the Ascension Mats are. And the more veteran you are, the less likely it is that you actually need the Ascension Mat. Now, some people are like, skill gems. Skill gems are absolutely there. If you're a veteran account, you don't need that. Some people are like, mana prisms. Some people are like, embers. And now I have the truth hurt for you. Why did I cross off embers? You could argue there is a similar mechanic to QP in topping off with embers, that is refilling your mailbox. But one, actually something that you can do with about only 100 boxes. and has diminishing returns for stacking your mailbox from there. 2, if that is all you are farming, what are you doing? Like the embers are worse than going and spending your AP in an actual like 5-star ember node. At that point, if you want embers, go farm them. Don't get them from the mailbox. Don't get them from, sorry, not the mailbox, from the lotto box. I understand the like, hey man, you got a bunch of 120s to do. The farming is more efficient. Unfortunately, now that 5-star embers exist, lotto farming for embers is not as important. So these are the big 3 that a veteran account needs. So therein lies the problem of what happens once you've capped out and maybe you only need like one of the ascension mats. How valuable is that? Oh, I see we had a spammer on the Discord. How valuable is it that we like need to farm that lotto? Like how much do we get per run? Is it really worth our investment? Okay. So I've talked about this. What you're always looking for when you farm is a confluence of factors. Oh my God, I'm sorry. My eye. Give me 1 second, chat. Like something got in my eye. Okay. So you're always looking for that confluence of factors. With regard to something like this, it's the exact same deal. So why is this good? Because of all the things I'm getting at the same time. That's what makes this valuable. And it will remain valuable, assuming, you know, you need the QP, you need all the other stuff. The more you farm it, the less valuable it becomes. But the reason why I say this and why I say this is still a good farming event and opportunity is because the second the storm pod comes back in as a requirement, it's no longer a farming opportunity. It is a grind over time. You can still do it, but you are limited in the ability to get more. So this is a farm as much as you can quickly, get what you need, and then if you need more later, you come back once the storm pods are enabled. And this is why I do my spreadsheet, so I can figure out how much value a farming event has for my account. Yeah, and I completely agree. Like, I've always operated under that mentality in general, is I look at it from a, what is there to be gained, right? So, it is what it is. I think veteran is the wrong word because a person who started day one plays every day but doesn't grind crazy hard is a veteran just as much as the player who farms to the max and has everything maxed out. Sure. I think it's how deep do you play? No, I don't. You want to know why? You're on to a decent idea, JC. You're coming up with the wrong answer. It's not about veterancy per se. It's just the word I use usually as a placement. So you're right. You want to know the real answer? That's your real answer. Here's why. This account doesn't have to grind nearly as much. This account has to grind exponentially more. Why? This account has that much more stuff. This account doesn't. This account actually can do a decent amount of grinding and not have to go insane. So in a weird way, yeah, you could almost say like hardcore, right? But quite literally, this is what's going to determine need more than any other thing. Is how much money you spend on the game is what determines how much farming you have to do. And how do we know this? I'll give you guys an example. Imagine playing my account with its various characters and needs versus playing like a 3-star only challenge account. Who needs to farm more? Answer's obvious. The more you think about it, the more obvious it is. So, yes, quite literally, there is a factor there of how much you continue to consume affects how much you have to consume. It becomes almost a self-fulfilling cycle. And there are various other systems like this in the game. For instance, chat, why do you make CE bombs? Save QP. Fair enough. Let me rephrase this. Like, what are you doing when you make a CE bomb? What's the goal of it besides being efficient? Housekeeping? Clear the storage? No. Gain more experience? That's one way of saying it. What are you doing? Leveling more Cs. There you go. So you create CE bombs to level Cs. And you need FP to get more CE bombs. Correct? So there is this exact flow right here. I have watched people go, I need to level more CEs. Therefore, I need more FP. Therefore, I'm going to make more CE bombs so that I can level more CEs, and they keep going in this cycle. And I'll tell you where it gets hilarious. This is fine. This is fine. This gets fucking hilarious. Watching some of the like absurdly stupid and like just scummy tactics people will go to get even 10 more FP is freaking hilarious. And then you start asking yourself, why? Why do you need it? And then you start finding out about the craft essence they're currently trying to level, and you realize they're on like their like 50th craft essence, and that they absolutely don't need it, and they're just creating a perpetual cycle for themselves. They will never be done. They will always have to keep finding more to level. So it's a similar problem. And as I say, like there's other systems in the game that have this issue where the more you consume, the more you have to do. And it just will keep going. And to be fair, it's not like the devs designed it to do that. It's the player is telling themselves they have to do more. The player is gaslighting themselves into going, I have to keep going. So an example I would give you, chat, is I have watched people say, so like I'll give you guys an example that I think is really appropriate here. Let's just look at my craft essences right here. What am I filtering by? They're probably at the bottom is why. Hold on. No? I'm so confused. Like my sorting and filtering here got all fucked up, but oh, was the how did that get turned off? How? Like that's always on for me. So, Chad, I don't have like an absurd number of craft essences leveled up to 100 or anything like that. Okay. And actually, yeah, I think this needs to go like that. There we go. Okay, so like this is my account. What are the odds that I need to level 100 a new CE after having all of these at level 100? Very low. Very low, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. I am leveling Detective Foams to 100. Why? Technically, it's actually like a good CE to have at level 100 for 6 slotting. If you want to be as efficient as possible, then technically having a level 100 Detective Foams means that you have a 5% bond up and 5% QP up CE. That is also 2k attack. Okay? That's why. So most of the Da Vinci shop Cs are not. They're split stat or all HP. Okay? So this makes this a really good candidate to actually level. The thing is, for years, I have watched people go, I am going to level up every Da Vinci shop CE for when I put them on support, simply so that they will appear higher in certain sorting functions on friend support. For that only reason of, I want more FP. That's it. They will do that just to get more FP. Here's the fun part, chat. The amount of FP required to level 100 ACE is so great that there is no way that ever pays for itself. Therefore, they're leveling craft essences just to cheat the sorting function of the friend list, just to get more FP. So they're literally wasting FP to get more FP. And you start going like, yeah, exactly. Why don't you just do the lotto? Like, holy shit. That really is what it boils down to. So that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make. Is like, you will see people do like scummy stuff like that, all in the name of like, I need more FP. I need more FP. And it's like, you don't need more FP. Like, just stop with the C's that you actually need. Don't go, oh, I also need to level 100. Whoops, sorry. I'm thinking I'm on my alt account. I also need to level 100 all of these as well. It's like, yeah, no, don't get me wrong. There's probably another like 20 CEs on this account I could level to 100. But after about like 40 CEs, chat, there's really not much more you need to level. You've pretty much covered every nook and cranny of niches for craft essences that you could possibly need. They don't want to farm as much, I'm guessing. No, that's not it. Not the people that I've seen that do stuff like that. They're psychopaths basically. And it is what it is. If you're someone that does that, my condolences. But like the reason that I'm saying and why I'm putting this out is because again, it's like they are, by taking and adopting this strategy, they are gaslighting themselves into grinding even more. They are forcing themselves to do more to fill that hole that they have. But it's a black hole. It's a perpetually draining thing. They will never get out of that sequence. They will always keep convincing themselves that they need more. So it's interesting and funny. Holy crap, I turned on the recording, chat. It's still happening. Why? Bro, what? I full computer rebooted. Okay, that probably wasn't helping. That probably wasn't helping. Hold on, chat. I think I know what it was. Let's try it again. No, it's still kind of happening. Although it's not as bad now. So that tells me I'm on the right track. There's sources that are running in the background that shouldn't be. Wait, if that's the case, there's no difference. Not ooh, no, now it kind of is. Yeah, it's definitely choppy there. Huh. Check one other thing. Drives aren't full. Did I talk about the interview? No, not yet. I have some recording I have to do here first too, but like, because we got to talk about the buffs. I'm trying to figure out why my recording is fucked. I mean, like, worst case scenario, OKest already told me, it's like I can get the VOD again for tonight's stream. I just hate doing that because basically it delays things for him. It makes it all take longer. So now, chat, we're just doing the Mr. Chu portion tonight as well. We're not doing the Nasu and Takeuchi version. I'm checking settings because that's what people are recommending. They're saying to lower the bitrate, which the bitrate's already not that high. Was just listening to Trubs too. Yeah, Trubs going over it. Unfortunately, Trubs got a late start, so I like did not get the time to transcribe like basically anything that he's saying today. I think I got like the first 15 minutes of what he did, and then I had to go. So we've done part of it, but not nearly enough. And I assume he's still going. There's an auto configuration wizard for this? Somebody's having this exact issue. They're like, after about 10 seconds, it starts getting worse. Uh, oh, that's not what I wanted to start. OBS log showed some issues with Windows hardware acceleration, but not sure if that would be your issue. It shouldn't be, because as of yesterday, I hadn't rebooted the computer yet, so there hadn't been like a Windows update or anything, right? So like all the settings should have been the same, but I don't know what is changing at this point that it's like suddenly becomes so much worse. And like I said, if I open my my task manager, my stuff is not capping while we're recording. So try that. Let's see. Better, but it's still kind of jittery. Like I don't mind as long as it can follow me, but that is better. I did reduce the bit rate a little. Let's check the recording. Okay. Yeah, I think that's doable for now. Chat, scream at me if it starts getting bad. That's all I'll say. And then hopefully if I do it over here, it shouldn't be bad either. Because yeah, it's like I don't know what the heck is going on, but With the way it was, I could not handle it. And at least, like, now, it looks like it's working right. You're right, Kaiju number 8 is good. I told you, bro! Has been. Alright, chat, let's go over the buffs. That's grand score. Hold on. I had Naknaria on the side here. Bro, I fucking hate this pop-up. Like, holy shit. I know it's yelling at me to update, but like, how about you just don't give me a pop-up instead and you wait until I decide to update? That's simple. Why not just record without camera? Because it slows everything to a crawl. Everything. But I'll keep working on that. I think I'll try to get okayest to just take the VOD for tonight as well, because it's just, I don't want to like risk it turning all this crap to shit. What's going on here, Matahari? Give me that. Literally just trying to get through to the unit as fast as possible. Is this one right? Yeah. Yeah. I actually hate the way that somebody on fandom worded that. That's not defense down versus charm. I don't know why they did that. Yeah, I'm getting 5k per day without maxing those Cs. Yeah, I think, honest to God, I think that, and sorry if I wasn't looking at YouTube chat, I wasn't really looking at either chat while I was fiddling with those settings, so guys, if you said something I didn't see it, feel free to say again. But yeah, like, in general, I think now that we're in the era of, like 100ing and 120ing things, I really don't think you can try to, like, cheat FP. Because, like, for instance, my alt account has a level 92 Castoria friend on it. And I, like, the thought occurred is, like, that was the old meme for, like, trying to steal more FP. Good luck. For every 92 that's out there, there's a 100 and there's a 120. Like, you ain't getting much. You're still getting beaten by the people that actually care about the unit more. So I think in that regard, it's good. We grab the surf mode data. Chat, also, we forgot to talk about this yesterday, but the channel hit 5 million views. So I have a surprise coming for chat. But it'll probably be a bit. You're going to have to wait. Congrats, thank you. Yeah, viewership has definitely slowed down over the years. Part of that's the game, part of that's just, I guess, on me, right? Why is that not opening? I don't want it like that. Huh? Avalon, did you just take a picture of that? Is that what that was? Surf Mode buff today wasn't in my predictions. I don't think it was in a lot of people's predictions. There were definitely people in chat saying like, hey, I want Surf Mode to get a buff. I as well said, yeah, I would like that too. It's just like, it's the same thing as like rooting for a Squirtoria buff. They need an upgrade, but the unit is still so good that you just don't think they're going to do it, right? So it is what it is. We're strengthening quests. All right. I assume Okayist wants the black background, so we'll go with it. Also, I feel like, Chad, is my head getting like cut off more now? Down too low. How did it get lower? Ah. Perfect. I was like, yeah, it feels like it's keeping happening. I'm like, I don't mind if it happens every once in a while, but when it happens like repeatedly, like, good lord, man. Okay. Hey guys, my name's Kadroth, and I'm here to talk to you about the Servant Strengthening quests again here for the anniversary. So we are now currently on day 4's buffs, although day 5 will probably come out by the time you guys see that. So let me know what you guys think the day 5 buffs are going to be in the comments below. Or sorry, I guess you'll already know that. So let me know what you think the day 6 buffs will be in the comments below. So day 4, we actually got some interesting ones here. We got Surfmo and Matahari. So this is actually pretty interesting because it was Matahari's birthday, specifically on the day this came out, which is definitely really, really nice in terms of just a nice confluence of factors there. And I think a lot of people were expecting it to be Matahari because, again, she's somebody that's getting the animation renewal. So it's a pretty safe bet that a lot of the animation renewal units are probably going to be who gets the buff. But in that same vein, a lot of people were thinking this was going to maybe be the Yuri Pirates because they were a 4-star rider, and it wasn't. Instead, we got Surfmo. There were also some people thinking the Fate Stay Night trend was going to continue that they had done with the first couple, but I did warn people. I was a skeptic on that. Definitely, it looked like you had 3 data points there, though, that kind of proved it. So I'm not going to fault people for thinking that, but at the end of the day, this is just the way it is. So it's interesting to see. We had the Parvati buff and basically Asterios buff yesterday. Definitely interesting ones in their own right. But let's go ahead and let's dive into these buffs since that's what you guys are here for. So Matahari has been a unit that has been a little bit maligned over the years. She's a 1-star. She's primarily, as an assassin, used for charming and defense downing the enemy. And that's really it. She doesn't really have a whole lot of her claim to fame. Obviously, as a 1-star, the stats aren't going to be too solid. And she doesn't have an offensive Noble Phantasm, so it's definitely not going to be a thing for her. In fact, that Noble Phantasm is yet another defense down, as well as another potential charm chance. So that's kind of been her whole thing, has been just trying to charm lock and defense down and debilitate the enemies. So the devs come in and they actually revisit this because naturally there are just not a whole lot of capable uses in that. So I think they said, hey, look, instead of expanding her uses this time around like they maybe did with Asterios yesterday, instead we're going to now just make her better at what she does because she is not super solid even within her own niche. And you can see why, because the pheromone skill that she originally had, this is her second skill, was literally just a chance to charm all male enemies by 1 turn by 60%. From there, it will reduce all enemies' defense for 3 turns by 20%. It's a solid effect if you can land both of them, but that is definitely the issue. So they decided, let's upgrade this. And you guys can see, it will now reduce all enemies' charm debuff resistance 1 time for 3 turns, thereby all the way up to 60% charm debuff resistance. This should drastically increase the odds of the charm landing. In fact, you'll probably see it just almost automatically land on just about everybody, unless they have some absurdly high resistance to this sort of thing. Again, from here, she still has the chance to charm all male enemies for 1 turn by 60%. I would have hoped that they would have adjusted that. I would have hoped that they maybe would have expanded it so that it wasn't just males that she was charming. We've actually seen this happen with units like Iskandar in the past, so in that regard, I think that's where I'm a little bit disappointed in this buff. This buff could have been a lot better for Matahari. It's still not a bad one, and I'm sure Matahari fans are just welcome to have anything at this point, but this one feels like they definitely didn't go far enough to me. So it will then reduce all enemies' defense for 3 turns as it normally did by 20%, but now it also reduces all enemies' defense for 3 turns when they are charmed by up to an additional 30%. On top of that, it will have a 30 crit star bomb. So it seems like what they're kind of trying to do with a lot of these, because they also did a similar effect on Asterios, is they're just kind of adding in crit star bombs to the low star units. And I can't say I hate that, but I can say that at the end of the day, that's really weird since an entire low star unit's like primary niche revolves around that, which is Mozart at this point. Now, Mozart can do some other stuff, obviously, including his arts up, but the fact that Mozart can just be rotated in and generate 50 stars is one of the like strongest things about him. So it's really, really interesting to see that now that like they're just kind of giving that away to a couple of the other low stars. And I think it does kind of cheapen it a little bit in his case. Now, you guys can see fandom does denote here that there are some extra things on this. That is, charm defense down will be applied to all enemies upon skill usage, regardless of whether or not they are charmed upon cast. If the target does not meet the charm condition, the buff will be displayed as inactive. So again, it'll look sort of like if you've seen Ask's attack buffs that are inactive because you don't have enough HP, or various other things that have this effect. It will basically just darken the icon for it, and it will make it so that it's not actually in play. But that means it is sitting there waiting to be active, and that does mean that you could use this in the sense of you can pop the skill, rotate Matahari out, and then maybe have somebody else activate a charm. So that can be useful potentially, as this can allow you to maybe amplify or get additional chances at this effect. The buff can change to being active or inactive at any time, depending on the current charm within their duration. So that is another really, really nice thing in that regard. So I do think that this buff is good for her. I do think this helps her. I do think it's going to make the charm more frequent. I do think it's going to improve the amount of defense down she can provide. But I really would have liked to have seen them maybe address the breadth of what she can charm, and I think that would have been a little bit better here on this skill. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below about the Matahari buff. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts on this one. Next up, we got Surfmo. Now, Surfmo, I gotta be honest, I mean, like, several people in my chat had said, like, oh man, what if it's a Surfmo buff? That'd be amazing, right? And it's like, yeah, I'm also thinking the exact same thing. But none of us, I think, really actually expected them to buff Surfmo. And that sounds bad, because the same argument could be used about, like, Squirtoria back in the day, too, where people just go like, oh no, Squirtoria doesn't need a buff because she's still so good. It's the same deal with Surfmo. When it comes to looping in FGO, Surfmo and Squirtoria both are the game's best loopers. So in that regard, it's kind of a weird thing to see that, like, they have gone unattended to over the years at the same time, but it's why people feel like, hey, maybe they shouldn't get a buff. For me personally, I've always felt like they should, and then you can just adjust everybody else accordingly. Because I feel like when you leave units behind, you end up with a situation like we have here. So Surfmo has always been a really, really good looper ever since she came out, because technically right after she comes out, they actually tweaked her NP gain rate because it was considered to be too low. Well, it looks like maybe they overtuned, but rather she's just a product of her times back when there was a lot less NP gain buffs and arts up buffs. So that sort of thing made sense back then, and now she's just absolutely cracked when it comes to refunding. So the issue has always pretty much been her damage output, and that's been something that she has lacked for a while. Now, for years, this was perfectly fine, as, again, we didn't have a whole lot of competition in that sphere of things. But now we have units like Habitrot out there that actually are just hard welfare and can be gotten to NP5. And that made the situation for Surfmo so much worse, especially since Habitrot can be forced to 3-turn due to her 80% charge. If you ask me, that's maybe something that they messed up with Habitrot, is that they made Habitrot just outright too good. And so Habitrot, after she comes out and it becomes accessible to people, now you do have to beat LB6, but at that point, she basically just replaces a lot of people's writers, and there's not really a heavy reason to roll too many others. So in that regard, I think the devs looked at Surfmo and they said, what does Surfmo need? Obviously, the answer is damage. Surfmo needs to be able to compete with that welfare. And boy, did they. So they took Surfmo's normal MP that just dealt damage to all enemies and had a chance to reduce the NP gauge by 1, a base 50% chance. And they basically said, hey, you know what? We're going to give the standard NP interlude for scaling. So NP2 becomes NP1, NP5 becomes the new NP2, and so on. So they do that, but they also add an increase to her NP damage if she is on the waterside battlefield for 1 turn. Now, there are numerous other units out there that gain waterside battlefield effects. There's only a handful of units that can provide waterside battlefield if you're not already on one. So naturally, a pairing with Surfmo would be very beneficial to her. And since her refund is already so good, that might be decent, but you have to consider the fact that you are only adding 20% NP damage in that regard. So it's probably not worth the 3rd support slot or something like that for that. Instead, you're probably better off taking somebody that could actually just amplify her damage by more than 20%, as that would be the better thing. But the interesting part about this is that still, again, this is going to activate before damage, and this would be something that would scale like, say, with Oberon, so you could get a little bit of extra firepower if you're already on a waterside battlefield. Her overcharge effect also got an additional line here, and this one's actually the kind of more insane one, and that's that it increases NP damage for 3 turns before damage goes out by 10%. 10% doesn't seem like a whole lot, but you know, pretty much by the end of your 3-turn loop, that is going to be 30% extra NP damage, doubly so if you're using Oberon. What is also interesting is that this does scale with overcharge. And by golly, if there is anybody that can get to 200% charge pretty easily, it's Surfmo. So you could see this getting stacked even higher and higher if you're up against, like, say, a 3-enemy wave, which is something that at this point with double Castoria setups, Surfmo is just almost overkill on. So you could definitely use that to your advantage, and it's one of the things that I think the devs really need to be careful about with some of these prolific arts loopers. When they have scaling overcharge effects, and you start allowing that to increase damage, and that unit can refund even more past 100 to potentially get to 200%, you start beginning to have a problem at that point, because that becomes their newer baseline. Now, what's really interesting about this is that Surfmo has always been a unit that can handle oddly structured nodes, which sounds weird because she's refund based. That's how good her refund is. She does have the 30% charge as well in her kit, so she's always had that capability of just kind of not caring what's in the node and still being able to loop over it, assuming her damage works. Now, we get more damage, so this will definitely help out quite a bit. So you might be thinking, what does this mean then for Surfmo's damage output, and how does it compare to other people? So let's start it out here. So on screen, you guys can now see this is Surfmo's damage, self-buffs only, so no external supports or anything like that, both before and after damage. This is neutral damage, so it's not including like class effectiveness. But you can see, before this buff, at basically NP1, she was looking at only 14k. After the buff, that is now 20k. Furthermore, the waterside battlefield will extend that to 24k. So you can see you're already getting just a ton of extra scaling out of this. If you're on Waterside Battlefield at this point, your damage would have almost doubled compared to where Surf Mo was before. And the easy way to understand that is that, again, it's not going to be a perfect one-to-one. So if you look, NP2 did not become the new NP1. Why? Because they also added the additional overcharge effect that added even more damage. So that's why now the new NP1 is even stronger than the old NP2 was. But if you look at something like NP5, now you're looking at a 23.7k in the old numbers all the way up to 31.3k. So you're getting a whole lot more damage here. So if you're somebody that has multiple MP levels of Surf Mo, your Surf Mo will pair up very favorably against a lot of riders now. We can see on screen, again, this is basically Surf Mo's old numbers in a proper composition for herself. Basically, double Castoria Oberon and a level 100 Black Grail. She would come out to 176k on wave 3 at NP1 and 294k at NP5. Looking at the new numbers now, though, post buff, 274k is your new NP1. That is almost as strong as the old NP5. That's just how much the scaling has increased here. And then you still have Waterside Battlefield, which would make NP1 stronger than NP5 at that point. Similarly here, already you're getting massive jumps up to NP2, and by NP5 you're looking at 412k. And these are still neutral numbers, so if you're actually effective here going up against like casters, you're going to be able to double these numbers. So it's definitely really, really, really strong. This is one of the huge things I think really just has changed with Surf Mo is her damage output has gotten quite good. So let's compare to Habitrot. Habitrot as a welfare is guaranteeable NP5. Habitrot is at 321. So going back to the Surf Mo numbers, what does that mean? An NP1 on Waterside would still lose to Habitrot, but an NP2 would squarely beat Habitrot, regardless of whether or not the Waterside Battlefield is present. So that is very significant and immediately noticeable, because several of you probably would have a multiple NP level of Surf Mo for this sort of thing. Now, that doesn't mean that Habitrot is completely outclassed anymore and like dead in the water. Habitrot still has a lot of usability and utility in how she can be used, particularly the fact that she can be used to kind of take out a wave and then rotate by killing herself. So Habitrot definitely still a very solid unit, but absolutely, yes, they should have made balance-wise Surf Mo stronger than her. Now here is Santa Nemo, a much newer welfare. This is actually going to be the welfare that you guys are going to get from Nemo Moss, this year's Christmas event on NA. It is a shell lotto, so you guys can look forward to that one later. But he is going to be the welfare. He is an AoE arts writer himself. And you guys can see he'll do about 346k at NP5, 519k if evil. Well, that's not going to be a number that Surf Mo is necessarily going to be able to reach, but the 346k might be a number that you could reach. In fact, pretty much NP2 is neck and neck outside of the Waterside niche there, in Waterside niche or at NP3, and he basically gets beaten unless it is his evil niche. Odysseus is another new one, an interesting one. Well, sorry, I say new, he's newer. But definitely old by FGO standards at this point. So, interestingly enough, Odysseus can only get to about 324k, and that's significant simply from the standpoint that Odysseus was between Surf Mo and Da Vinci Rider, kind of meant to be the more damage dealing alternative. So at this point, this really hurts Odysseus. If you're somebody that has basically an NP2 Surf Mo, you're probably going to beat just about every single 5-star now, at least looping wise, for damage output with Surf Mo. And if you have NP5, you're better probably than a lot of NP2 SSRs now. So that is really a significant change. Bakin as well is another newer unit here. She has basically only 248k at NP1, but she does have the demonic and evil niche and the ability to combine them. So basically, again, same deal. If you have like niches at play, this can really change things up. But if you manage to have like an NP5 of Surfmo, it's going to beat that NP1 SSR and really at least challenge the NP2 quite a bit. So definitely an interesting thing to denote. So honestly, like looking back at Surfmo's buff now, I can say to a degree, this to some people might feel like it's too strong. To me, this actually feels like it's just right. It feels like they actually got Surfmo right here, and she falls kind of exactly in line with where the other writers are. But at this point, you never know. Maybe there's going to be some future NP interludes for writers and stuff like that. So who would you like to see get a buff next for the writers, particularly the AoE ones, and who do you think needs it the most? I'll be curious to hear you guys' thoughts, and how do you guys feel on the Surfmo buff? Do you think this was too strong, too weak, or just right? Again, let me know in the comments below. I will see you guys for the next buff video. Have a good one. Okay. It's completely balanced on the fact that Surfmo skills suck. Surfmo skills are fine. Just 3 turns, arts up, evasion, critical star generation rate, and guts with charge. Her skills are great, actually. I think the only thing I would have liked to have seen that they didn't touch, I would have liked to have seen the drain chance increased, because 50% is fucking ass, dude. Like, that needed to get better. She's solid and simple. Yeah, I think a lot of people have a tendency to think that like you need 20 different effects for your skills to be good. I think Surfmo and Squirtoria are the poster children that prove that wrong. Like, both of them have very simple kits. Both of them are still some of the like best go-to units to this point. I have no water. Chat, let me be right back. I'm going to fill up my water and then we'll get started. Okay. I love using Percy for that reason. Yeah, no, I think Percy's a great example. It's like, Chad, would you rather use like Fion or Percy? And it's like, I think most people would just rather use Percy. Percy is just like, there's no like RNG or anything like that. There's no like, oh crap, like I've got like 1 turn duration. It's like, it's just 3 turns and you just keep doing it and it's just good. I use both depending on the MP. Yeah, it's fine. Baggage up my trash here, chat. Okay. Let me get the spreadsheet open because we're going to need a lot of time to go through this, chat. So I am not giving you guys the link to this sheet. Okay? And to understand why I'm not, please understand that it's not done. So, like, we are going to go through all of this, and it's going to be a thing for a little bit here. Like they do a round of buffs for Ryder Grand Duel. I could see Da Vinci getting one. Yeah, that'd be nice. I actually think, like, one of the things that's super apparent to me from Famitsu and stuff is that, like, there's people that are really hoping, like they're gonna grand a unit whether or not it's worthy, like whether or not it is like the strongest unit. And so I hope that the devs realize that and start going, shit, we need to like buff this unit and buff that unit. Chat, is there a way to make this not blinding white? No! Turn back on. There we go. Dark mode. I have a dark mode toggle plugin on my browser so that I can literally just dark mode the entire browser. And you can see, like, it does like weird stuff to the like color scheme and everything, but it's nice for shit like, oh god, dude, why is can I zoom this way? I don't like that you can only zoom like 200% here, because chat's not going to be able to read it otherwise. Okay, so I guess we'll go ahead and start the recording here. So chat, as you guys know, the Famitsu interview has now come out for Anniversary 10. And this is an interesting one. Now, we always get the Famitsu interview usually after the anniversary or during it, right? And this happens every year, and there is always an interview with Mr. 2 and then a joint interview with Nasu and Takeuchi. So far, we have already translated the Mr. 2 interview in depth, and I'm going to be going over the finer points of the translation. Trubs was kind enough, Mr. 2 Love Trouble was kind enough to translate all of this for us painstakingly over a couple of hours, and I took notes on everything that he said. So we're going to go over that. I'm going to give you guys basically what was said, some of the context for it, and my thoughts on it, because I made note of the things that I thought were actually important. So we're going to start out with the Mr. 2 interview here. There will probably be another video later on for the Nasu and Takeuchi portion. And then, I don't know, maybe a little bit more for like some of the interesting like data and stuff that came out of the Famitsu poll that they ran. Because every single time they do the article at Anniversary for FGO, they usually do a poll on essentially the user base, and they try to find out like various things about them. Like, for instance, in this Famitsu interview, they did have who the most granded servants were out of the people that they pulled. So, for instance, like who they're going to grand. Obviously, we only have a couple of the grand scores out at the moment, but even for like classes that it hasn't been released, who they're going to grand. So it's definitely an interesting thing in that regard, and we'll go over all of that. So let's go ahead and start out. So this is the Mr. 2 portion of the interview. If you don't know who Mr. 2 is, it's Kano Yoshiki. He is the lead developer for FGO, and he is in charge of all of Part 2, or Season 2, or whatever you want to call it. Basically, Cosmos and the Lost Belt. So he has been in charge of all the Lost Belts. He has been in charge of all of the, like, 0.5 events that have come out since then. He's been in charge of all of the ordeal calls and everything associated with them. So basically, Mr. 2 has been running the game for 8 years now, and it's kind of wild. he is definitely somebody that I feel like always is trying to act on behalf of the players. So he's generally pretty jovial and generally somebody that a lot of us just really like. He has a very good reputation in the community for the most part, though I think there have been issues in the past that he has had to deal with. So let's go ahead and let's hear what he thinks. So this is an ongoing interview between him and an interviewer, and the interviewer starts out by asking him for 10 more years of FGO. So the interviewer is pretty based nonetheless, right? And Mr. 2 at that point kind of dodges the statement. Like, he chuckles, but he dodges the statement. He goes, okay, like, let's talk about some of my most memorable things. And he said, looking back, his most memorable thing was the timing of LB6 and like everything that went on and like how they had to get to LB6. It was a big thing for the developers as a like learning moment for them. And it opened up a ton of opportunities. It's what really like propelled them forward as a developer group and proved to them, because I guess a lot of them were skeptical as to whether or not they would be able to like do LB6 justice. It proved to them that they could do it, that they had like come together as a group and managed to do it. So again, you can see he says next that he was worried that they wouldn't be able to do it proper justice with the current development team at the time. And keep in mind, this is still kind of post-COVID. This is them trying to recover and get some more people in. So they had a lot of young staff. They were missing a lot of people, I think, because I'm pretty sure LaSingle just kind of lost a lot of people, both with the COVID transition and probably with the Aniplex purchase, I'm sure happened and kind of reduced the numbers some. So I think they've had a lot of turnover over the years. He said there just simply wasn't enough developers at the time, and that was kind of the issue. The completion of the LB6 chapter proved to them that they could grow in their development scale, and they grew entirely as a company during that time. So it proved to them that they could do it, and that it's what really allowed them to actually grow, both in competency and numbers. So LB6 was the origin point as well for their ability to produce at a high scale further on. In other words, before that point, they weren't really able to. Again, coming off the back of COVID there, they were having major issues. So at this point, they're neck deep in COVID. And they have a lot of people that are work from home, and they still managed to pull this off. He recounts that Takeuchi agrees that it was the turning point for the developer staff. So that is another interesting thing. As you guys know, Takeuchi, he'll be in the next interview, but he is the game's lead artist. He's who works very closely with Nasu and has been with Nasu ever since the beginning, and is in charge of a lot of the design aspects of the game himself, as both a Type Moon representative and just sort of a lead creative like person on the game. So I think like both of them were probably neck deep in that, and yeah, like the fact that he's agreeing with him is definitely showing that that was a major turning point for the company. The interviewer then asked about the entire like 2019 2020 section there, and you know, COVID in relation to that. And Mr. 2 said that it was after Olympus that they had to turn production fully remote. So this is an interesting thing. Now, honestly, I'm sure some of you guys are probably thinking, and I was thinking the exact same thing here as well, like, this is 2025. Why are we still talking about COVID? But to be fair, I think this is Mr. 2 reminiscing, and I think he's trying to contextualize why this was such a big moment, why it's so memorable for them, and why it is the like genesis moment for them going forward. So basically, he says again that it was after it that they had to turn fully remote after Olympus. They got everyone prepared to work remotely, including getting them all live streaming gear. So that's, I think like that's pretty good of them. It's like they got everybody set up. I know a lot of companies that just said stay home or work from home, but then they didn't do anything to like help take care of the employee in any way or make sure that they had like the gear that they needed in order to be able to do that. So definitely a nice thing there. And they did talk about how changing to remote had its benefits. He doesn't really list what those benefits are. I think obviously reading between the lines, you can assume that it's really nice in terms of like peace of mind. If you've ever been somebody that had to work from home during COVID, you know it's like one of the best parts was not being in the office environment and not having to deal with people that much. But naturally, there's still some problems with it as well. So, the interesting part about this is that he says they are still remote to this day. And actually, this is an interesting thing because Trubbs mentioned it and he pulled it up on the website himself, but you can go find this on the LaSingle website. They actually list the percentage as of their last update of people that are in office and work from home, aka work remote, right? 70% of the staff still works remote. Now, I hate to say it, but I do think that is a major factor for the issue of FGO's continued production. I understand the need to like accommodate people and things like that, but this is definitely a concerning stat. Here's the thing about this, and something that I think all of you guys probably need to know. Obviously, when this all started, this was COVID that caused this. After all of this, after a bunch of the turnover that they had, I think the reason 70% of them are remote is because they're just trying to accommodate the employee who doesn't live in the same city as them. I think they're not forcing people to move to the job site because they're having issues hiring people. They've had so much turnover, they're just trying to keep the butts in the seats effectively. They're trying to literally make sure that they have enough heads working on the project. So at that point, they know if they force that person to stop working from home or to move and like change their locale, that they risk losing that person and that they will have to then find another person, hire them, train them. So I think they're going like, man, yeah, this is rough. So it's definitely an interesting thing in that regard, but it is absolutely a concern. But yes, they are still in remote mode to this day, and they hold remote teleconference meetings still. The interviewer states that it's still affecting them and asks for more live events now. So when he says live events, he means like actual in-person events, live meetups and things like that, okay? Mr. 2 mentions the Tokyo Dome cancellation again and states that over the years they've had many peaks and valleys. Yeah, I think as a lot of people know, Tokyo Dome was supposed to be the big Annie 5 celebration. From my understanding of it, they were not even necessarily supposed to get the reservation for the Tokyo Dome originally, but there was a cancellation that allowed them to slide in. So it was like the perfect storm of events that was going to lead to FGO being able to celebrate its 5th anniversary in the Tokyo Dome, which if you can imagine, that would have been amazing. You would have seen an entire stadium full of people all celebrating it. It would have been a major PR stunt and event for them. It would have really helped the marketing of the game. Yeah, it absolutely would have been wild. The sad part is that didn't happen, and the big reason why it didn't was COVID. So they got really screwed over by that. So the interviewer asks about the current year and its focus then instead, stating that it must have been a busy year for them. Because again, 10th year, you know you got the final chapter coming. Mr. 2 says that now they have a straight shot to the end and that they feel like they just need to run through it. This is me really summarizing a lot of what gets said, but basically Mr. 2 tried to say that, like, yes, it was not as rough as they thought. And actually, that's the next line. So 10th year is not nearly as rough as they thought. They knew it would be intense, but so far their path is clear. So it's not that it's easy. They went into the 10th year with the full understanding that it was going to be very tough and that they are working very hard and it is very intense, but that so far the path is clear. AKA there's not a whole lot of like hiccups and roadblocks and things like preventing them from doing their job. Like back during year 5 with COVID, there was a whole lot back then. And that was definitely one of the major problems that they had. So now this year going forward, they know what they have to do. There's almost a clarity to their mission. So they are all just single-mindedly devoted to reaching that goal. So he also mentions that, and this one I found funny because in retrospect as a player, this sounds really bad, but he said that 9th year was, by comparison to 10th year, just one long summer. So it's like, hold on, did you guys like phone in the 9th year and stuff? And it's like, yeah, I don't think they're saying that, but I think, you know, we saw this even back during the 9th year interview. They were talking about the fact that the game was already looking forward to its 10th anniversary. So we heard them profusely at 9th anniversary talk about 10th anniversary. So you could tell where their mindset already was. Like, they were already just thinking about the future. And yeah, I do agree. I think the 9th year was kind of a lot of stalling in that regard. So it's an interesting thing to see in that regard. The interviewer then asked about Summer 9, aka Ordeal Call 3, and the associated summer event. Mr. 2 says that it was an unprecedented event. It was unprecedented to connect a event to the main story like that. And that Ordeal Call 3 was not fully planned originally. In other words, like, I'm sure they had some plan to do a story like that, some plan to do an Ordeal Call 3, but that it was probably not planned to, one, be part of summer, basically, and sync up like that, and two, maybe to be as robust as it was. So, he's definitely kind of hinting that, like, yeah, this is something that developed over time in working with the writers and scenario heads about this thing. They couldn't let Ordeal Call 3 be late and have it ruin the player experience or vibe that the summer event was trying to give. And this one was an interesting one because you could tell they really had a hard time making sure that both the summer event and Ordeal Call 3 happened, like, on pace, on schedule, when they were supposed to happen, so that, like, all of that timing worked out really well. The interviewer asks then which servant gave him the deepest impression. Mr. 2 said it was Space Airish, and the reason why was that she was both a beast, a summer unit, a space unit, and had an entire unique system in her kit. She took so much, and it was gimmick upon gimmick inside of her. So apparently this was just like a major ordeal. So kind of like back how we had prior comments in some of the prior Famitsu interviews with Mr. 2 about, like, oh, how much, like, effort goes into creating a servant. And, like, I think, like, back then he had mentioned before, like, Melisson and stuff as an example. It sounds like Space Airish was a particularly involved servant because of that, which, I mean, I'm going to say again, I think they probably felt the need to do that, given when Space Airish came out, they actually did apologize and say, like, we're sorry it took us so long to, like, get to this. So I think they knew it had been so long, and I think that's why she is so robust in a lot of, like, different ways, is because it was sort of their apology. They knew they needed to go all out with her to do her justice so that it would kind of make sense for why they hadn't done something in so long. So apparently as well, it was the writer's suggestion not to let her gauge function when it was taken as a friend support. So if you guys know Space Airish, she has the bond gauge. If a friend takes your Space Airish, they cannot level that bond gauge up. So not like the servant's bond level, but an actual gauge in and of itself that determines the master's bond with Airish during combat. And it's a really, really interesting thing because at different levels, it gives different effects for her. But that does not work if a like friend or somebody else takes her. So it's an interesting thing. A lot of people memed about it when it came out. They're like, oh, she's this like un-NTRable servant and stuff like that because of the decision. But apparently this was something that the writer decided. Apparently the writer approached the artist for Space Ereshkigal and asked if the like gimmick should function when taken as a support. And the artist said, of course not. So they basically ended up coming up with the Bond gimmick for her to make it so that other people could not level that like gauge for her. So it was an interesting thing. It was apparently, again, like the writer's idea, but it was the artist who also said like, of course not. And then the writer decided to go with that. So it's really, really interesting how that one came to be. And who knows, maybe we'll get a Chaldea break room on her at some point to fill us a little bit more in. The interviewer asked about the director letter that he gave us twice this year. And by this year, he means 9th year. Like 9th year going into 10th year. So basically, and stated that it was a rare occurrence for Mr. Chu to do this. And to understand the director letter here, this is in relation to the 4th and 5th append. Mr. Chu had to come out and issue 2 different proclamations as to kind of the state of the game and what was going on and what they were going to do about it, because the servers were up in flames. The player base was just absolutely out with pitchforks and torches. Everybody had had enough. And to be fair, they absolutely deserved it. If you're somebody that was playing during that time and you were around, you know that basically back when they first implemented the append system, they talked about having additional ways to acquire coins. They talked about like kind of the expansion of the system and how good it could be in the future, and that they still had more stuff to come. And then over the years, we really didn't get anything. And then this was further addressed at the 8th. Sorry, was it the 8th? I think it was the 7th anniversary. I think it came out at the 6th. It was addressed at the 7th anniversary interview. And they said that they knew, because this same interviewer, I suspect, we never really find out too much about the interviewer. At least I don't look into it. So I don't know if it's the exact same one we had back then or not, but usually it seems like it. But the interviewer back then asked Mr. Chu, hey, are we ever going to get more servant coins? There's not enough. And Mr. Chu goes on and talks about the fact that the devs are aware that there is not enough servant coins, and that there will be a fix coming in the future for that, and that they know that. And I want you to take that bit of information, hold on to it for right now. Mr. Chu knew that and got asked it and answered it. So then 8th Annie rolls around, and there is no coin fix. There is no mention of coins. In fact, it's not even brought up in the Annie 8 interview, which almost makes me believe that, like, maybe LaSingle or Mr. Chu said, hey, don't ask about this. I'm not going to answer it, right? So it's interesting that it doesn't come up again in 8th Annie. So we go another year without a coin fix. Then we get all the way to the 9th anniversary, and they roll out the new 4th and 5th appends, which require even more coins. And the server blows up. People are just angry. Why? Because obviously we were promised a fix to coins, and we don't get it at the 9th anniversary. Instead, we get new reasons to spend coins. So this deeply upset people, not only because we didn't have a fix, but also because there was just this like expansion of the system that if you thought you were done, now the devs were asking for more. It was basically like telling you, you haven't rolled enough, go roll more for your favorite characters. And still to this degree, I do remember back during 9th anniversary, there were a couple of people that started rolling to like NP7, NP8, and so on to try to get enough coins. And I laughed at them back then, because that was absolutely stupid. And to be honest, it's been stupid to roll for a 6 copy anyways already to begin with, because you don't get anything for it other than the coins. So watching that happen, I just went like, okay, I mean, I guess people can do that, but I think this is the hill to die on. This is the do or die moment. So the community gets deeply upset, and almost within 24 hours of the announcement of the 4th and 5th of pen, Mr. 2 comes back out and he issues an actual, like, a director letter, a dev proclamation from on high, talking about it. They say, we hear you, we're gonna fix this. And then the second letter that comes out later, I think it was about a week later or so, you'd have to go back and check, but then he starts coming out with, actually, I think it was just another day or two after that, he comes out and says, these are what the fixes will be. We will enact these. So you pretty much got back-to-back letters real fast there, because within about 24 hours, they knew what the problem was. And then within about 24 hours, they knew what the fix was after that. So definitely really interesting. Now, let's keep reading. Let's see what he has to say. So again, yeah, he's saying that, hey, that was a rare occurrence to give us, director letters like that, especially in rapid succession in relation to the 4th and the 5th of pen situation. He says in summary that it was due to his lack of attentiveness. So he's not talking about the director letter. He is talking about the 4th and the 5th of pen situation. That happened due to his lack of attentiveness, he's claiming. He said he won't give more information due to it being unfair as to provide an explanation and excuses for his decisions. Now that's interesting, chat. Let's take that thing that I told you to hold on to and let's bring it back now. Mr. 2 says he's inattentive and that he doesn't want to go into further detail because it's like making excuses for himself. But if you remember what I told you to hold on to, back at 7th Annie, Mr. 2 acknowledged that this was an issue and said that a fix was coming. So the next line here is, he states that it was his fault, and he again apologizes for not being able to resolve the problem right away as well. Chat, this reads like somebody with a gun to their head. This reads like somebody that is falling on their sword. He is taking the blame when his hands were tied. I think this kind of proves it, because one of two things is true. Either Mr. 2 is completely lying here to our face, and we can prove it, or he got told that he was not allowed to implement the fix. He was not allowed to fix the coin system. Why? Why would he get told that? That's why. So it could be Aniplex, could be their monetization department. I don't know. I don't really care. But whoever was responsible for that decision should be fired. I don't think it's Mr. 2. So, again, he states that it was his fault, and he again apologized for not being able to resolve the problem right away as well. It's really interesting, because if you remember the timing I gave you there, they had 9th Annie, and then basically within 24 hours, you have the director letter number 1 saying, we hear you. And within another 24 hours, you have director letter number 2 saying, these are what the fixes are. Those fixes were way too concise, way too perfect solutions for everything. So allow me. Back when Mr. 2 said at 7th Annie that there was a fix coming, the fix was the bond coins. They knew it. And how do I know this? That's also the anniversary interview that he starts talking about your need to bond up your units. They knew that was the case. They already knew what the fix was. Why couldn't he implement the fix right away? Wasn't him. Wasn't because they didn't have enough devs. Because the devs got forced to work on other things other than a fix. The devs got told to stand down. They knew what the fix was. If they didn't, there's no way they come up with it within 48 hours of the problem occurring. And it'd be one thing to propose some fixes. It'd be another thing to have precision fixes and lay them out as to this is the way every single thing is going to change. We will fix it. And that's exactly what he says. We will fix it. We will make this right. Way too fast. I don't see anybody in the developer industry respond that fast. And the reason why is because they already knew. They already knew how to fix this system. It was planned all along. In fact, I'm going to go out further on a limb. The fixes to the append system and servant coins were probably drafted at the same time as the append system. And then the monetization department got a hold of it and asked them to change it. To basically carve out a part of it that they could make more money off of it. I think that's the way this goes. Because that's what logic kind of indicates happened. It's like, I'm not assuming that they were doing this necessarily like because they were ignorant. I'm assuming that this was maliciousness behind the scenes. Because every other action the devs take in FGO is usually benevolent. Like, they don't do anything like this normally. The devs are usually very much on the player's side and always trying to do player-specific stuff. And the worst part about FGO is always its monetization. It's always the rates and the things that have to be tweaked, which they're probably controlling and dictating from on high. So it's an interesting thing to see. But let me know what you guys think about that. Continuing on here, he goes, again, he states it was his fault and he apologizes for not being able to resolve the problem right away. The fact that he specifically mentions this sounds like another falling on the sword. He's specifically taking credit for certain things that I don't think are his fault. I think that's why he's listing them out. He says he didn't think thoroughly enough and decisively enough to prevent the issue. That sort of thing could actually be the case, but if anything, he acted very thoroughly and decisively within 48 hours afterwards. It's possible, but I still think the stuff kind of adds up to this wasn't on him. The interviewer then asks if we will ever get additional systems that use servant coins. Mr. 2 states at the beginning of the year... Oh, sorry. Hold on. I feel like I lost it. Mr. 2 states, no, there will not be. And to make sure that you use any servant coins that you have instead of hoarding them from now on. So he's saying you don't have to hold your coins back. You don't have to kind of sit on them thinking, oh, there's going to be a sixth append. Oh, they're going to add like some new feature that uses servant coins. He's saying all of that is done. So in a weird way, chat, coins are dead. You're good. You can do whatever you want with them. All the fixes are there. That is what it is. Does this confirm we're never getting level 150? No, but it just means that you're probably not going to get anything tied to coins anymore. Like, that system is complete. Yeah. So the interviewer asks, when did the concept of having 2 Christmases happen for the 9th year? So if you guys remember going back to 9th year, we had a full-blown Christmas event. And then we had the, like, Arcuid Phantasm Moon Raid with Neko Arc and everything like that. So we actually had a double Christmas event, back to back to back. And it was kind of, in a similar way, it was similar to Ordeal Call 3 in summer. They were tandem events that were tied into each other. So he states that at the beginning of the year, but he's unsure of the exact timing. So like this came about early on in the 9th year. He said Mr. Nasu said it was just an additional scenario gimmick and to add it to the schedule. So he's like, Nasu didn't tell him anything more. He just got told to add it, so he did. He said at the end of the year, basically they kept ringing the bell for an event that was resounding. The wording here is really like flowery and like verbose. He's trying to sound like almost philosophic, right? Nasu said that it was an event for the pre-New Year's bell, and that once Mr. 2 understood that was the gimmick. So Nasu was just telling Mr. 2 these things, and that once Nasu said that it was a pre-New Year's bell event, he understood what the gimmick was. And Trubs actually went out of his way to provide additional context for this. He says, in Japanese culture, there is a like New Year's ceremony where they ring a bunch of bells leading up to the new year, and that like then the final bell rings and it rings in the new year. And that's what this entire thing was referencing, this entire event sequence. The interviewer is at that point actually surprised and shocked that he revealed that info, and Mr. 2 just said that that's just how like workshopping for Fate Grand Order always goes. It's like just Nasu comes up and tells him something, he does it, and then like maybe Nasu like explains it, he goes, oh, okay, that's what you're trying to do. So like it's very informal and they just kind of do it. The interviewer asks if it was rough though due to the timing of the year. He says it's the end of the year, you know, obviously everyone's busy. Like, was that rough on you? And Mr. 2 said yes, that they had to increase the health of the boss during the raids, and that basically whenever it comes to raid bosses, they keep having to do this. So in other words, like they had to mind it even though it was the end of the year thing. And he said that it's a balancing act, that they have to make sure that there is enough raid life for everybody to participate, but also so that at the same time there is simultaneously none left at the end. So if you don't know how raids work in FGO, they operate on a timer. The timer has an auto kill function that if the rate exceeds it, basically the raid will die faster. But if the rate basically falls under the auto kill rate, the auto kill kicks in and it will make sure that it dies on time. So back during that event, the raid was on pace to die within about like 2 hours, and they had to literally add more life to it. And I remember this because I was up at like some ungodly time of the night doing this raid, and I was like, well, I can either go to bed and do it in the morning, or I can do it now. And I realized if I go to bed and try to do it in the morning, it's not going to be there. But thankfully, over the evening, they added some more. So I got my farming runs in that I needed and then went to bed. And thankfully, because they added more, it was still there when I woke up again. So I got to do a little bit more farming. But yeah, that's apparently a major problem that they've had, is they always had this issue with raids and they have to keep tweaking it. Which if you've seen the stuff on NA, it's also present there. Mr. 2 says that, the interviewer asks if we will get a Grail Front this year. So he basically says this is interesting that after all of this time, like we still have not had a Grail Front again. In fact, I believe, chat can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the last one that we've had is the one that's coming up this year on NA. I believe it is the Castle of, like Night and Day. So we have definitely not had a whole lot of Grail Fronts. And that's why the interviewer's asking about it, which is really funny because the interviewer also asked this in one of the prior years. And that's what led to the revelation of the BB Grail Front that was coming that year. So Mr. 2 says that they don't have one for this year because they had to prepare for the final chapter and the Grand Duels. So he basically states like, we wanted to do the Grand Duels instead. They're just kind of what took up most of the time. But this is where it gets interesting. He says he understands that it's one of the unique and fun gimmicks of FGO, but that after the final chapter, they're going to try to adjust things so that they can do more things later. So the way he words this is it's like him trying to say, hey, we're aware, but we are focused on getting to the final chapter. And that is our primary goal this year. We know people want this, so maybe after the final chapter comes out, but right now, no, we don't have time for it. And it's interesting because he also mentions them making some changes after the final chapter. So that's right there, a little breadcrumb to hold on to, because that's a very interesting idea that the devs are going to make some adjustments after the final chapter. He does state that, however, he wants somebody to inherit the AI setup of the Grail fronts in the future. So if you don't know, Grail fronts use pretty unique AI for FGO, something that the game had not really used prior, which is like, you know, not just a unit using skills and timings and stuff like that, but also moving around the map and like strategizing what to attack and stuff like that. So that prior to Grail fronts had not been a thing in the game, and that was an interesting thing that they had to add. So the interviewer asks then if he was the one in charge of them from the beginning. And Mr. 2 clarifies and says, yes, that back in college, that was actually something that he studied. He studied like AI development. And when we say AI, we're not talking like Chat GPT. We're not talking like AI art or anything like that. We're talking about like NPC AI, like the stuff that determines how it acts and where it goes. So that was a major thing that he studied, and like how to code all of that in college. And basically he says that it was something that he was always interested in. And so that's why he took it on when he like when the Grail front started becoming a thing, he put himself in charge of it, basically. He says, unfortunately, the game restricts things from a scripting standpoint. And he found that he couldn't alter the movement patterns of enemies much. So, like, basically, he could tell the AI to go direct for something, but he could not, like, tell it to think how it did that. Like it couldn't be smart about it and, like, move in complex ways. It had to just go right at the enemy as best it could. And apparently that is just a limitation in the game. I don't know if that's due to the engine. That never really gets brought up, or if it's like just some sort of coding limitation they have because they haven't developed stuff for it yet. But I suspect that might be the case. And the reason why is he basically goes after this that the interviewer jokes that in the beginning, using your master to attack during Grail fronts was a good strategy. And Mr. 2 says that they improved it for the Day and Night Castle event. That is the Ptolemy event that's coming up later this year on NA. But that they can't make it too strong, or else players will hate it. And he's absolutely right. One of the big things holding AI and video games back is usually that the stronger and more robust they make the AI, the more it feels like it's cheating, and the more it feels extremely punishing to the player. So it's definitely a source of like frustration when they do that. But I think this is something, at least for me personally, that I would like to see more games do, is just create like slider settings and stuff where it's like, if you want that harder challenge, you can ramp it up. If you don't, you don't play with that harder challenge. I'll leave that off the screen since that next part is kind of spoilery. And he says adjusting whether or not for the AI behavior to go all out offense or all out defense is actually what takes the most time. So he doesn't mean like just sending the like one enemy's determination to go straight at you and attack you. He means the overall AI's ability to like calculate your decisions and determine what the appropriate response is. Like whether or not it should go on the offense or play defensively, that sort of thing. it's like that's what actually takes the most time for it to code in, because that has to have a whole lot of like checks and balances against it. Now he says, though, that he has all the stuff that he needs and he wants to hand it off to someone else now that the blueprint's there. So it sounds like basically he developed everything that the Grail fronts need to actually be successful and operate correctly. And that from here on out, it sounds like he wants to pass the torch to another developer that he can like train them on it. This doesn't sound like he's trying to like quit or anything like that. It just sounds like he's trying to use it as a learning mechanism for other people. The interviewer then asks about the Indra Lotto and the new golden box resource that came out with it. And he asks, will there be more new event mats in the future? So this is interesting because Mr. 2 clarifies that it was less about it being an event material, less about revealing it with the event, but more about the fact that it would be obtainable from the Grand Duels. So it sounds like they wanted to put a unique resource behind the Grand Duels. And that's interesting because I think a lot of us have probably assumed that that material would be something that would maybe come and be farmable in something like the final chapter. And that might not be the case. This might be the case that this is something that is unique to Grand Duels and you can only get through it, which will make it very interesting for certain characters like that end up using it. So for instance, I believe Indra uses it. So if you're a newer player and you get Indra, hopefully it's there in the Pure Prism shop for you, because otherwise like you would have to do the Grand Duels and it would take you a while to get to the point that you even could do them. So it is an interesting thing to lock a unique resource behind that. He asks, will there be again, more new event mats in the future, but the interviewer then asks about the Train Your Dragon event, and he was wondering like, how is it that they made it that so that you could customize your dragon so completely? He's like, it was your dragon that you were able to hold, like it was not the same as somebody else's. And then also the fact that they gave out a craft essence that had the same thing for it. And he stated that apparently like even before the scenario writer came up with like the exact thing for this, that they already had 86 different possible combinations at that point, and that it was very difficult for them, but they were able to pull it off. So that was just them trying to do something really new and unique for the event and trying to be as, how should I put this, like trying to make it as fun and as customizable as possible. There is some confusion, but basically after this, the interviewer asks about the April Fool's app. And he asks, hey, like, this says that it's the final app. Is that true? Is this the final April Fool's app that you guys will ever release? And it's unclear as to whether or not Mr. 2 is being completely serious or joking here. But basically, the reason why we're unsure, because he says, yes, it's the final one, but we've had something like this before where they said like, oh, it is Gura Gura final Hanoji. And then everyone's like, oh my God, it's the final Gura Gura event. And then we've had multiple Gura Gura events since then. So it's entirely possible that they're just memeing on that. And honest to God, this is exactly something that Rio would do. If you guys know, like the artwork that Rio does, Rio is always memeing the game. I could easily see Rio saying, we're going to call it the final one, literally to just mock the fact that they are calling it the final chapter of FGO. So, like, I could easily see him doing that and being like, yes, this is the final April Fool's. And then it's like, and it's not. But it is a really, really interesting thing there. Okay, so the interviewer says at that point, speaking of that, why haven't we seen the artist Rio's official picture yet? Like why haven't we seen a caricature of them, of the artist? And that also that we don't have artwork from Rio for any of the newer servants that have come out since then. And he's like, like, hey, if that's the final app, are we gonna get those artworks? And then Mr. 2 laughs and he says that he hopes those Rio arts come out. So that's why, like, it seems like Mr. 2 was just playing coy and like, I don't know. Yeah, it's the final one. Like, it seems to me like he's joking, but it's up in the air. We're not really sure. Okay. Now, chat, I'm going to pull it off the screen here real fast. The next part here is MASH spoilers. I am going to read you guys the parts that I think are not spoiler, okay? Because I don't want to like spoil anything, but there is some additional clarification that if you guys want this, when I do release the spreadsheet, you guys can go and read that. But basically, the interviewer asked about the lack of welfares this year, stating that we only have 2. And Mr. 2 clarifies that we also got the 2 Hakunos, both male and female variants, and that there was another one that the interviewer was not mentioning. So, let me see if there's anything else here I can talk about. There is a specific question about a character and mentioning that they seem like they're a combination of the gimmicks from other characters. And Mr. 2 basically says that that would have been amazing, but that this is something that's both the positive and negative of FGO. So in other words, that's like, that would have been amazing if that were the case, but it wasn't the case. Like, that's not something that they planned. And he says that's both the positive and negative about FGO, that whenever it comes to servant planning discussions, spontaneous ideas get born that come from out of nowhere. Someone comes up with a new gimmick, and then they design the servant around it. So it's not that, like, they're... Like the servant is probably already, like, conceptually planned, but gameplay-wise, they're not. And maybe even aesthetically, they're not at that point. Okay, yeah, that's all I can read you guys from that. Okay, next part. I'm aware. You'll see. They talk about that here. Well, actually, I think that's in the next interview, but either way. Okay, so now the interviewer asks about the lack of large system update in year 10. So he goes like, hey, like, we have the grand system and stuff. We have like the coin system, which you said is done. Why is there not a large system update? Why is there not like some brand new spanking system? And Mr. 2 says that while they're moving on to the final chapter, they came to the conclusion that they're not going to do a large system update. So in other words, not now, not yet. They don't want to change the environment so drastically because of people choosing their grands. He said they wanted you to kind of have, and I'm ad-libbing a little bit here, but they wanted you to have that power fantasy. They wanted you to like, they wanted it to feel strong. They didn't want to like change the system and have it like affect your grand choice. So that's why they held off on stuff like that. The interviewer asks if that was the reason, though, that they were telling people to level and bond all of their servants. So the grand system, is that why? And Mr. 2 says yes, it was all pointing to the Grand Duel and Grand Graft systems, which have to do with the final chapter. So this is an interesting one from the standpoint that, like, again, in their eyes, the Grand system is not a large system update. It's not a big thing that they're implementing. This is just the logical continuation of stuff. He says it was intended as a warning to help people prepare for the final chapter. So again, that's why they were telling people level up and bond all of your servants. It's a warning for that. The interviewer asks if they need to continue to grow their servants and accounts. And then from here, chat, you guys are about to learn just how based the interviewer is. Okay, the interviewer did all of you a solid with that question. So he goes, do we need to continue to grow our servants and accounts in the future? And Mr. 2 says, again, yes, they're still adjusting things for the final chapter. However, they're trying to make it so your grand servants can pop off beyond the final chapter. And he emphasizes getting them to Bond 15 and using Stargazer's teapots to help this. So this implies two things. One, this implies that Bond scaling will impact probably like damage output in the final chapter again. So yes, work on the bonding of your grands at minimum. If you do no one else, try to bond up your grands, okay? Yeah. So he then says that they already knew about the able to equip your CE bond gimmick ahead of time, and they wanted to warn people. And basically, this was something that they had like deliberated over for a while. And so the interviewer asked about the concept of being able to select a bond CE effect or the 50% charge effect on your grand, and if there was a consideration for maybe doing other effects. And Mr. 2 says that originally they had come up with some other ideas and just increasing the cost to scale to that idea. So like maybe you had one that was like, I don't know, like 50% NP damage, and another one's like 30% attack up. Well, then the 50% NP damage would cost more than the 30% attack up or something like that. So, and that's me making examples just so that you guys kind of understand that he's saying like the increasing cost of different effects. However, not a lot of those ideas stuck to the core of what actually ended up getting implemented in the grand system. So, he basically said that it wouldn't be satisfactory to everybody if they had gone one way or the other with it. And they were basically deliberating over this for a long time. And then Nasu stepped in. And Nasu directed them to implement one other option and the 50%, and the Bond C effect. And then let people choose. So the other option that got implemented was 50% charge. And then let people decide between either the 50% charge or the Bond C effect. So that was Nasu's idea. And this is an interesting thing for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, this is how the way the system turned out. So that makes it really intriguing that this is how it all kind of happened. Because it sounds like the devs were kind of stuck. They were going back and forth on this over and over and over again. And it took Nasu interjecting to break that gridlock that they had. Now, what's really interesting about this, though, too, is that this also shows just how involved Nasu is with the gameplay design. This is not just Nasu being lead writer. This is also Nasu working from a developer standpoint. And this is something that actually got touched on years ago in the past. I think it was like an Annie 2 interview. We found out that Nasu actually does dictate and control the balanced state of units and what buffs can happen to what units. So that tells you that Nasu actually is deeply involved in the game design, and the overall lore and balance state of the game. Does that mean like Nasu's to blame for everything? No, not necessarily. It's just one of those deals of he is somebody that I guess has final say. So if Nasu tells them to do it, they have to probably do it. And that is an interesting thing to see. And that actually did come up in the interview years ago as well. Because I believe that one was talking about the Pigify effect and Cersei. It may not have been year 2. It may have been like year 3 or something. But essentially, the devs warned Nasu not to implement Pigify the way that they did. And Nasu insisted that they do it that way. And that is exactly why you have Pigify the way that it is now. And that's why every single entity in the game has to have a trait as to whether or not it is Pigifyable on it now. Because basically they wanted to implement it as just another stun. Nasu was like, no, this is a trait. And they were like, don't do that. And Nasu was like, we're doing it. So essentially, Nasu just caused more work for the devs. But it's interesting to see that that is how things work behind the scenes. So yes, Nasu actually stepped in and told them to implement one option or the other and let people choose. So instead of forcing adjustments to every single Bond CE, they created a functionality that everyone could agree on. Now, this is also interesting because this implies that they're no longer going to fix the Bond CEs, which it sounds like they had originally been planning to. That sucks, because I think all of us would agree that Bond CEs could be a whole lot better. But it sounds like this is what took its place. To be fair to them, they would have had to have rebalanced over 400 different Bond craft essences. That is not easy at this point. But I would also say that this is something to me that they probably should still do over time, and just do it over time, roll it out in increments, and don't make it like a, hey, you got to do this like all at once type deal. But I get it. Nasu said that the Bond CE as well is the servant's personality, and basically like it's an expression of their personality and their last gesture. So it's like, hey, this is my last gesture towards the master, in effect, or like just in general. So it's an interesting thing to hear that out of it. It gives you a little bit of lore context for the Bond Cs. The interviewer states that adding the append skills with the 50% effect, that they're actually able to get 70% charge right off the bat. I would add that if you level up to the top right of most of the grand scores, you can get an additional 10% charge. So you can actually get 80% off the bat, which is interesting. But Mr. 2 states that he himself is doing the battle and that he himself, while doing the battle and adjusting the compositions and strength of his units, that like in the grand system, that is a fun experience. Sorry, that's kind of worded poorly on my part here, but yeah, it's like basically he's agreeing with the interviewer and saying like, yes, it's really cool. I love going through the steps of leveling up the grand and working on their grand score and like making them stronger, and that changing the party comp around to make sure that I kill. He's like, it's fun to watch them grow. It's fun to participate in this. The interviewer states that you can only utilize a grand score. See, chat, he's based. You can only utilize a grand score in the grand duels. Will we be able to use them elsewhere? He asked the question that's on all of our minds. Will we be able to use the grand score beyond the grand duels? Mr. 2 says that at the final chapter, obviously, and they are planning to utilize Grand Servants in other places. So basically, you'll be able to also use it at the final chapter for whatever they have planned there, and then somewhere else. And then he says that they are planning to have a stage floor for people to show off their grand units and grand skills. I don't think this means like, hey, you just put the grand unit up and everyone oohs and ahs at the unit. I think he's meaning they're gonna have some sort of like fight or something somewhere else, some other scenario where you can use grands like regularly as a means of like showcasing their power. Yeah. The interviewer based as he is, says you can have 9 grands, but we can only have 6 grands in our party at the same time. Can we get all of them in the roster at the same time? So in other words, can you fit 9 units into a party comp? Mr. 2 says they're in the testing phase, but that they're currently looking at how they can bring all 9 of these grands and have them be used at the same time. So that's interesting. He doesn't clarify, but he basically tells you look forward to it, and that all 9 grand servants will play a role of some sort. So don't read too much into that, chat, but it sounds to me like it's something they're aware of. They are working on it, and they know that this is a thing, and they want to make it like something that they can do. That does not mean you'll get all 9 in the party at the same time, though. Because if nothing else, you could also interpret this as, like, if you think back to like Solomon Temple of Time, right? Maybe there's just like a raid that each of your grands is assigned to. So like that would be a way to make sure every grand was useful. So like I could think of ways that they could do this without doing what the interviewer said. But yes, it does sound like they're aware of that fact that like, hey, you can't get all of your grands in the party at the same time, and they want to find some way to make it like special, right? So we'll just have to see how they do it. Okay. The interviewer asks about the compasses, which, if you don't know, the compasses are the item that allow you to change which unit is your grand. So once you've completed your grand score, you can then change. It still has to be somebody that's applicable, so somebody that's at least level 100 and 10 skills. But if he's basically asking about that item, like, will we be able to get more of them in the future? Because right now that you get 5, I believe, per grand score, per grand duel that comes out. So there will be a total of, let's see, 5 times 9, 45 of them. So that is a finite number. You will only be able to change your grand choice 45 times. So can you get more of them? Mr. 2 says, probably not. At least not until the final chapter is over. They want you to pick your grand servants first and kind of stick with it. It's like they had to allow you the ability to change, but they want your grand choice to mean something. So what's interesting is that he's basically saying, hey, in the future, yes, probably. But they want the grands to be an important choice. They don't want you guys just hot swapping grands on the fly constantly. So I do understand that from a developer standpoint, why they would want that. The interviewer says that while there were no major updates this year, small quality of life this year has really helped out. And hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for the raid, Fox. How's it going, bud? We are going over the Famitsu interview with Mr. 2 and all of the bullet points that I have from Trubs' translation of it. So, welcome, everybody. You're just in time. Although we have gone through a good chunk of this already. We've hired the Bargu to stare at me? Oh, no. Not big, hot night lady. But thank you again for the raid. Hopefully you guys had a good time. What were you guys up to in FGO today? Hey, what's up, War? I understand with them not doing it on the fly. Yeah, it makes sense. Olga fights are multi-party. Yeah, it's actually a good point that you bring up, Acid. So, like, in theory, they could do something like that with the grands. And that may be what that is. They may be testing something there. We finished the summer event? Good. Yeah, I was going to say, I think it ends tonight. So if you guys haven't done like your CQs and stuff, make sure you guys get everything right and ready. Also, roll your banners. They're going away. Did some grand Kenshin farming. Nice. For the sweet 1K. So, I've been told that you can actually do the ordeal calls out of orders. Does anyone in chat know if you can? Like, can you jump straight to ordeal call 4 now? If you have them unlocked? Because, like, I did them all when they came out, so I actually don't know. I'm doing all right. You could do ordeal call 3 if you did the summer event. Yeah. Well, I think it's already main interluded now as well. I think you can skip 3. 3 is weird. Yeah. So it's like, I'm just wondering, like, could you actually jump straight to ordeal call 4? Not that you wouldn't want to do ordeal call 3, right? But I guess for like people that are running out of time. You need to do 2 and 3 to unlock 4, but you can do 3 before 2. Interesting. Okay. You can do 3 before any other ordeal call. Weird. It's always the best course of action, yeah. No, that's why I was curious, because people had told me that you could do them out of order, so I wasn't sure how that worked, but we'll go ahead and continue this. So again, thank you, Fox. Guys, if you have not followed Mr. Foxverse, he's a member of the stream team, good buddy of mine. Make sure you guys go give him a follow. He is the Barghest man. If you guys have any questions about Big Hot Night Lady, go ask him. I just wanted to punch BB in the face really hard because I love her. Yes. 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 Love. But yeah, we're gonna continue on with the interview here. So again, this is the Famitsu Anniversary 10 interview with Kano Yoshiki, aka Mr. 2. And this is him talking about year 10 and everything else. So continuing on where we left off, he basically said again that at least not until the final chapter was over. And the interviewer said that while there's no major updates, the small quality of life this year has really helped out. So if you guys can think back to some of the stuff that has happened this year on JP, you would definitely see at least some really beneficial quality of life that have come out. And Mr. Chu starts to talk about this. So he goes, yes, the 10 billion QP cap raising and the ability to use storm pods in other nodes now was stuff they were able to implement without having to change too much. So kind of back to earlier where he said, hey, no major system update this year. This isn't that. He's saying this is a smaller quality of life. We could get it done. This wasn't too hard on us, and we knew that people wanted this. So he also then says that while avoiding large-scale updates, they're still planning to do other small quality of life updates like this, little by little. He did say, though, that due to the final chapter, they probably don't have time at the moment. So again, they are, as he mentioned before, just kind of on a clear shot to the final chapter now. They know what their goals are. They know what they have to do. They are just doing it. They are in laser focus mode, and they are getting to that end chapter. He does, though, state that he would like 2 new quality of life features. The first one is an auto craft essence feature whenever you are filling out your friend support. So this is like your support loadout for like events and things like that. He's talking about, hey, I'd like the ability to just be able to like press a button and have it just load craft essences onto the support loadout for me. He's saying it's pretty tedious and time consuming, and he actually recounts during this point that he is really tired of like his friends giving him these like wide-eyed stares when he doesn't have the event support loadout set up, and like basically it has the wrong craft essences on it. So he's like, I'm tired of that. We need an auto function so that I don't have to do that. Which is interesting. I think it's an interesting idea. Obviously, it's not going to be as good as like hand picking which craft essence goes on which unit, but I get it. I do understand across like 3 different support loadouts that can take quite a bit of time. He also would like a button to max event item shop conversion. So if you guys were just doing like summer event here on NA and you were like, hey, let me convert my currency to QP, or you were going like, hey, let me purchase this amount of like embers or this amount of an ascension mat, you'll notice you often have to like drag the slider all the way over. He's saying, instead of that, I want a button that I can just one press and it maxes it. So it will just immediately take the most that it can. I actually kind of agree. That sounds like a really, really useful thing, honestly. Like, it's not like a big deal, but it's one of those things where it's like over the years, I think we've all just become used to doing it, as opposed to like, man, it would be nice to just hit like basically redeem all in effect. So that's definitely a nice one. The interviewer then asks about the insane amount, and the interviewer is really emphatic about this, the tremendous amount of the anniversary gimmick, as he calls it, aka the 1,000 courts. So Mr. 2 wants everybody to do the final chapters together. So I'm gonna say this. Pay super close attention to this point, chat. This is later hinted to be extremely important in the Nasu interview. And to give you guys a bit of a preview and TLDR, there is a lot of discussion about the future of FGO in the Nasu and Takeuchi interview and the ongoing of the game and Nasu's willingness to do more for the game. And he said it will likely come down to a couple of things. One of them is like social media, SNS as he calls it. And the other is the clear rate of the final chapter. That's going to be a big thing that they're looking at. Basically, if people are not actually doing the story, if they're not actually completing the final chapter, why do they need to keep doing more story for the game? So, this is my big thing to you guys right now. If you would like FGO to keep continuing on, if you want more of Nasu's amazing stories to be written for this game, and you play on JP, please do us all a favor. Get caught up on story. Get that 1,000 courts. And do the final chapter when it comes out. Please actually finish it so that they go, okay, people do care about this story. People are interested to see more. Okay? Now, I think this is interesting because I think this is something that behind the scenes, the devs have known for a little bit. You've seen they have majorly been pressuring us for years now to finish the story. And Nasu has even commented before now about, well, we'll see when the time comes and it will depend on the players. So I think this has been a benchmark for Nasu behind the scenes for a long time. And he has been telling the devs that if they're not completing story, I'm out. So I think that's why the devs for so long have been pushing us. Complete story, please. We will give you all these rewards. Please do it. They want, it's job security for them. They want to keep going. So again, he says he wants everybody to do the final chapters together. The interviewer states it's a tremendously insane gift, as well as the everyday free story summon and animation updates are. Mr. 2 says that servant animation updates will start happening more from now on. He said that Mr. Shiokawa, who is the lead animator for FGO, Mr. Shiokawa said in the past that everyone would get an animation update, and they're planning to do what he said. I did put in the notes here, this might apply only to older units from when he made that comment, because this was a comment, I don't even remember it. It was a long time ago, I suspect. So, like, he might just be meaning, like, oh yeah, we're going to do everybody from the original units, like the original cast. Or he might be meaning, hey, up to the point at which he said that, all units that are released we're going to do. So I don't know that this means every unit ever put into the game, like even like, oh yeah, we're going to do an animation update for Olga Marie who just came out, right? Like, I don't think that's necessarily what this is saying, but I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to take the spirit of the promise and say, yeah, we're going to do animation updates for all the older units that need it, right? So the interviewer asks if that means that servants will get a scenario to celebrate the animation updates as well. So like when they get an animation update, or is it going to like come with an event? Is there going to be like some sort of special unique thing for it? Mr. 2 says that they want to make it a yearly gimmick from now on and put them out as they go. So this at least implies that it will be like an anniversary thing where like, hey, each time an anniversary rolls around, you get new animation updates, which I don't know about you guys, chat, but we went 2 years without an animation update at all. So if we get a couple every anniversary even, that's already an improvement. But yeah, I do think this is interesting, and it doesn't necessarily have to be as little as that. It could be something that's even more. Maybe it starts happening regularly, again, as they go. So what this also tells me that behind the scenes, they've gotten some new animators. The animation department is getting more fleshed out now. Because I think that's why they weren't doing them so much in the past, why they had almost ground to a halt, is the animation department was one of the major bottlenecks for the game. It just lacked numbers. There weren't enough people working there, and they couldn't hire more people to work in it. And I think now they maybe have, or at least they've trained up the people to be able to work in that department. And so now they have the capacity to do more animation-wise. So this is a very good thing. Like, low-key, chat, this is actually one of the most amazing announcements they have made here. This is a good sign for La Single's health going forward. The interviewer says that it's exciting and then asks about you, Olga Marie. And Mr. 2 specifies that Mr. Type Moon specified the Noble Phantasm's expression and that it was difficult. So, like, how they wanted Olga Marie's Noble Phantasm to look and to feel, right? Like, and that it was difficult to implement. Mr. 2 says that it was a natural discussion that the Earth President's NP should also be different than the Director's NP. If you know, you know, chat. I'm not going to go deeper into that. He says it's very emotional for him, though, that they're finally bringing her out. Her arrival, though, was originally supposed to be a little bit later. However, thinking of the user's feelings, aka you guys, they wanted Olga to be out before the final chapter came forward. They wanted her to be a grand servant as well, and to be able to take on that final chapter alongside everybody else. The interviewer asks if that means that the servant who got pushed to make room for her will arrive in the 11th year. Mr. 2 says yes. They have been pushed to 2026, and they're already working on it. So this is an interesting thing, because for numerous reasons, as you can see, the interviewer's next statement is, I knew it. I knew you would go along after the final chapter. In other words, they're working on content after the end. So this confirms FGO will continue into 26. Not that we didn't already know that, but now it's really interesting, like I said, for multiple reasons. One, this means that a unit got pushed so that Olga Marie could come forward. But Olga Marie is the anniversary unit. So does that mean the original unit planned for anniversary is what got pushed? That's an interesting idea. And it may be, it may not be. They may have done all of this in enough time in advance that they shifted the schedule around and they made things work. But it is an interesting thing nonetheless to consider. It's also interesting to hear that they're already working on it. And the reason why is Mr. 2 says that they're focused on finishing the final chapter, but they have planned a lot of things up to the 11th anniversary. So in other words, they're already just working on the schedule and have stuff bracketed out up to 11th Annie. So that's interesting because this confirms, again, a future for FGO. It confirms the continuance of the game. And it confirms that they have a plan, at least for this next upcoming year. The other interesting thing is if you go back to 5th anniversary, Mr. 2 back then, because Nasu was dooming and he felt the need to come out and talk about it, Mr. 2 said back then that they had plans through 10th Annie, which was absolutely right. We see that now. So back then, he said, hey, there's 5 more years of FGO at least. Now, though, he's only saying there's at least 1 more year. Mr. Chubbs, thank you for the raid. Welcome, everybody. How's it going? I am going over your translation. Guys, if you have not followed Mr. 2 Love Trouble, make sure you do so. Again, he is the sole reason we are able to cover this. So please, please, please go give him your support. He was very kind enough to purchase the Famitsu article and live translate all of it. And I believe he was working on the Nasu and Takeuchi interview. Although I don't know, did he get finished? May have been another swimsuit Annie that moved to summer. Could be. Yeah, could be something like that. Lupien tired and finished it. Perfect. I will have to ask you questions because you got a late enough start that I was not able to like sit there and transcribe a lot of what you were talking about. So I think I only got like the first 15 minutes. But good to hear that you're done. And get yourself some well-earned rest. Are you off tomorrow, or is this like you're headed into another work day? Yes, good. They haven't confirmed a stream date for whatchamacallit. For summer yet, right? Because I assume that's next week sometime, but chat was asking me about it before, so not yet. Okay. Yeah. We will continue on then here. So, again, chat, if you haven't followed Mr. 2 Love Trouble, go do so. He's a fantastic buddy of mine, member of the stream team. Go give him some support. Most likely started around the 13th, 14th. Yeah, I'd believe that. Because I think the grand system storm pods expire on the 13th. I think. So that makes sense. But let us continue, chat. So, where was I? Oh, right. So I was saying, like, this is also interesting because it means that, like, hey, we had 5 years that he was confirming back then in Annie 5, and now he's saying, hey, there's at least 1 more year. So this may mean that FGO starts going year to year from now on. I don't know. Or at least, like, they're playing coy right now because of the whole final chapter. This is Mr. 2 trying to let you know there will be an FGO after the final chapter, but we just don't know what form that's going to take. So it is what it is. You can read as much into this as you want or as little into this as you want. But Mr. 2 says, yes, they've been pushed to 2026 now. They're already working on it, blah, 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 blah. And he also says that the interviewer asks, once the final chapter is over, are we going to have, like, shenanigans and other, like, kind of like spin-off things and like joking things? Like, this one's kind of like vague as to what the interviewer meant. I talked to Trubs about this one specifically, and he mentioned that, like, it seems to me that, like, they're asking, like, are things gonna maybe, like, open up more afterwards? Mr. 2 says that he's unsure, but that he does know and wants to keep it a secret for right now. So in other words, like, it's not that he doesn't know. It's not that he's actually unsure. He just doesn't want to tell the interviewer. Obviously, he doesn't want to let the cat out of the bag. But he specifically mentions continuing through Valentine's next year, which I found this really interesting because he had just mentioned the 11th anniversary. So I wonder if the unit that got pushed, which was the genesis of this conversation, is now the new Valentine's unit next year. So that would be interesting. And I'll let you guys' minds run with that. Because otherwise, I didn't really see any reason why Mr. 2 specifically brought up Valentine's. It was a really weird thing for him to kind of just drop there. I think there's only 1 female left in the silhouettes. Yeah, who knows? I mean, we say Valentine's, chat. Valentine's, remember, in Japan, Valentine's is both Valentine's and White Day. So, like, he could just be using it interchangeably. The interviewer asks for Mr. 2's final comments on the end of part 2. And Mr. 2 refuses. He literally says, no, I'm not, like, I can't do that. He goes, I can't put this into words right now. And he gets really, like, emotional and philosophic here, and he says that he wants to do it with everybody. Giggity. He wants to do the final chapter with everybody. So he goes, let's all conquer the final chapter together. He asks everybody to come back for the final chapter release at December 20th. See, chat? See my point that I was making earlier? Mr. 2 really wants people to do the final chapter. And you need look no further for any ulterior motive than just, like, Mr. 2 has worked on the game for 8 years. And to be honest, he was with the game even before that. He's been in charge of it for 8 years. So, like, naturally, he just wants everybody to enjoy, quote unquote, the final product of that. Like, he wants everybody to come back, whether they are, you know, currently playing or somebody that's maybe, like, you know, taking a break from the game. He's saying literally everybody, come back, come play the final chapter. But that could also mean, because again, he wants people to clear so that this helps, right? But he does specifically state they will not delay for anything. They are not stopping. They are full steam ahead to the final chapter. They will not let anything delay it. The interviewer asks for his feelings again towards the final chapter. And Mr. 2 says that he's really unsure of what to say. He's been the part... I like how I just said all this. He's been the part 2 guy for 8 years now. but at the same time, he does feel a little sadness. This will be a large event, though, that will conclude part 2. If it goes beyond their expectations, it would be greatly appreciated. He has been crying recently because the road to the end of this part was so long. So, like, he basically just comments that, like, he's been reflecting, he's been thinking, and he says he still remembers the beginning still freshly, even though it was so long ago. So I think it's him having to think back over the years and everything that they've struggled with, everything that they've accomplished, and it's emotional for him. He goes, Mr. 2 will be putting on a strong face at the release, but when he goes home and plays the final chapter himself, he'll probably cry. And then he, like, kind of wraps up the interview and, like, basically just is, like, wishing everybody again, like, hey, please come play the final chapter. You know, I'm sure you'll enjoy it, that sort of stuff. It's just like, I didn't put that part in the interview because at this point he's kind of getting repetitive. Because again, you can tell he's getting emotional, and I understand. I think, like, when you've worked on something for 8 years, you get emotional about it. You start thinking about, like, everything that you've done, everything that you've accomplished. But you also think about, like, the peaks, and you also think about the valleys. You think about, like, what if you had done things differently? What if something else had gone differently? What if, like, you know, something bad hadn't happened? And you also think about all of the good stuff that has happened. And it makes you emotional when you think back over all that. Just the sheer body of work that you've put in across all of that time. Damn, part 2 has been 8 years. Yeah. It's wild. Like, and I'm gonna say this: part 2 should have never been 8 years. Way too long. But for the record, chat, there is proof in the section that we skipped for spoiler purposes, which again, that'll be available basically when I release the spreadsheet here. But I've got to finish Trubs' end of things. But basically, there is proof in the section that we skipped that part 2 was planned from the beginning. Like, there were elements to it that had been planned from all the way back at the beginning of FGO. So that's not a huge surprise to someone like me, but I definitely know that there are a lot of people that, like, I think, like, they probably think, like, they've been flying by the seat of their pants, right? But that section that we skipped applies very specifically to something, and the interviewer asks, hey, when was this originally planned? And Mr. 2 goes, oh, it's always been planned. Like, Nasu has always said this from the beginning. So it is what it is. It definitely tells you, at least, like, to a degree, Nasu planned a bunch of this. Which I think is also why, like, when you read Nasu's comments about, like, him, you know, seeming like he's being very doomer and he wants things to end and stuff and wrap up, it's because he planned for the story to end in this way. He planned for it to have a conclusion, as any good writer would. But I think that's where, like we were talking about before, the possibility of continuing on afterwards. We know the game will continue now. The question is, what will the form of it take? And will there be, like, Nasu there to help guide it? And that's why I think it's like, again, you look at that, you understand his frustration and why he maybe wants to do other stuff. But I think it's also that Nasu's a little bit of a control freak himself. Nasu is absolutely somebody that wants quality out of his, like, productions. So Nasu himself is not willing to let it go. He doesn't want to do it dirty. So that's why he's putting it up to the fans. He's saying, hey, if you guys want this, then yeah. But if enough people don't want it, then we'll end it. And that's an interesting thing. The Cryptors 2 Team A was out there at the very start. Yep. Oh, no, I think it was planned before that, JC. Because I'll be honest with you guys. I think if the game had failed, like in those like first 3 months, because if you go back to old interviews, they'll tell you like FGO was in a do or die mode for the first 3 months. Literally, it came out, people were super excited, but people were also super disappointed. They realized the game was not up to snuff, and they said, okay, we've got 3 months to fix this. Give us those 3 months. If we don't fix it in that time, we're going to end the game. So FGO almost died in its first 3 months. But I think if it had died, Nasu would have still told this story. He just would have told it in a different format. I think Nasu had always planned this to a degree. Like, I think when you start getting to like the minutia of details, no, I think that sort of stuff gets discussed down the line. But I think the overarching major concepts, I think the particularly the major characters, yeah, I think all of that was kind of a thing. Like from before day one, this was all done in the planning phase. But yeah, anyways, that is Mr. 2's portion of the interview. Let me know what you guys think. I will be very curious. I think a lot is here. And while there's still more that I wish they had maybe talked about, it is definitely interesting to hear both straight from the horse's mouth on some of this stuff, but also maybe like kind of back where we were talking about the fourth and fifth append, like maybe where even he's having to kind of take one for the team. And that's what I think like worries me about the game probably the most in the long run. It's two things. It's Nasu's continued involvement, and dear Lord, is the monetization department / Aniplex just actually mucking things up for people. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. And I will see you guys for the next one. And that is the interview. I'm not going to show you the other tabs here because that kind of is incomplete yet. And I got to get with Trubs on some of that. So, unlike now where a game's success can be determined before its release, back then the gacha scene really wasn't like that. It was you succeed in the first 6 months or you're done. I don't care. Like don't take this the wrong way, JC. The devs specifically said they had 3 months. Specifically, that's their word over your 6 month iteration. I trust them, right? Like when they're saying they had 3 months to get the job done, that's literally what they meant. Because they literally said if they did not get it done in that 3 months, they would have canceled FGO. They would have just said, nope, we're over. Is the spoilerly questions something that hasn't come out on the net? Yes, there's multiple questions. It's dealing with something specifically from Ordeal Call 4. So I'm not talking about it. It's interesting. You guys will see it. And when I say it's spoiler, most of you are probably aware of the spoiler. Like I would wager 99% of you are. I am just leaving that up to people to decide whether or not they wish to be spoiled on something like that. Yeah. The Nasu and Takeuchi interview, though, let me go ahead and preface this chat that if we get to go over it with you guys tomorrow, the Nasu and Takeuchi interview, that is going to be complete spoilers almost. Like, you guys need to understand, Nasu's the lead writer. He is going to talk shop He's gonna talk about the stuff that he has written. So keep that in mind. If you do not want like story spoilers for upcoming stuff on NA, you need to probably avoid the Nasu and Takeuchi interview. Now, that being said, I'll do my best to break it out, but it may be a point where it's so rife that like the whole section is just bracketed in spoilers. So I'm more talking about the scene in general rather than FGO. Oh yeah. No, I am specifically only talking about FGO. They should just end Mash and Fuji's journey and give us new stuff. For me personally, I don't think you necessarily need to end Fujimaru's journey, but that definitely depends on the way things end up, right? I also don't think you need to end Mash's, but okay, chat. Just so you guys understand, I have called this for about called this for about 7 years. Nasu says this is the final chapter. Of FGO. And 7 years ago, when Nasu first started dooming this shit, pointed this out. Because he first started dooming in the Annie 3 interview. Chat, the final chapter of FGO does not have to be the final chapter of the game. Does not have to be the final chapter of the story. What is the final chapter of Fate Grand Order? It is the final chapter of the Grand Order. You can easily continue things and just say the Grand Order is fulfilled and there is no more Grand Order. It's that simple. So you change the name. Part 3 has a new name. That's it. And then everything Nasu said is true. Nasu did not lie. But FGO continues. The game continues. Fate Smaller Order. Exactly. No, I'm dead serious. I pointed this out 7 years ago. That is the easy way that Nasu could be lying to you. Fate DoorDash Order, yes. But, honestly, and chat, wouldn't it be funny if they also just came up with something else that had the initials GO so that they could just call it FGO still? Nasu lies a lot, so I believe it. So here's the thing. Look at how Nasu lies. Nasu lies as easily as he breathes. Nasu always lies in a partial truth. He hides the lie in a truth. So that's how Nasu can tell you it is the final chapter of FGO. It is the final chapter of the Grand Order. And he's right And everybody thinks that means the game ends, but then the game doesn't end. So that's how Mr. 2 can say the game continues into 11th Annie and beyond. And Nasu can say this is the final chapter of the Grand Order. And both of them are telling the truth. As Trouble said, Nasu is IRL Oberon. I have never heard Trub say that before. But that is the, like, absolutely 100% correct statement. And that's probably why Nasu loves Oberon so much. It's a self-insert. The man speaks in riddles. Like, but seriously, like that is the way it is. It's Nasu will absolutely hide a lie in the truth. And we know that. And we know that Nasu does that. Nasu literally got called out last year for it. He goes, "You will never get another beast unit." And then Takeuchi said, "Hold on, can you say that?" And he goes, "Well, I'm technically correct." And since that point, you have gotten a servant-versed beast and an unbeast. He didn't lie. But that's the whole point. I mean, didn't he say a proper human history beast? I believe he did. Yes, I believe he did. Everything he says has a hidden asterisk. Yep. I really like the other parts of this franchise to get back on track. The extra remake and strange fake anime are both so bananas by now, man. I understand that. I am biased. I like FGO. I as well would like the other stuff to get back on track. But if you put a gun to my head and you said FGO continues to pop off and continues to be what it is, or I get like extra remake that I might play through a couple of times and then be done with, I'd rather have FGO. Now, maybe that's toxic of me to say that. Maybe everybody else doesn't feel that same way. That's fine. But I would rather have FGO. I'll also say this. Nasu, and this is another preview from the Nasu interview. Nasu basically says, hey, yeah, during the interview, he says, it's taken a toll on me doing FGO, and it has delayed some of the other Type Moon projects. I think logic dictates that that makes sense. But that logic only works in some Lost Belt world where none of us actually know who Nasu is. Chad, is it Fate Grand Order is the reason Nasu's not able to handle his other projects? The dude spent 8 years prior to Fate Grand Order making the Tsukihime remake. Is it Fate Grand Order's fault? This is just how Nasu is. Nasu cannot delegate. Nasu cannot give up control. Nasu has to do it all himself. And that cuts both ways. That cuts in the way of, man, I would really like that other project to get done. And that cuts in the way of, what the fuck, Nasu? Why are we having to, like, wait on you to write this for FGO? So, like, it is what it is. I've taken off a month to play the game I like at the moment. Yeah, that's also a Nasu thing, so. Like, I don't disagree with anybody saying that they want those other projects. I do agree. I think this is just Nasu's inherent flaw as a human being. The man is absolutely gifted as a writer, possibly goated, right? And straight up, his biggest problem is that he can't get other people to like take over parts of the IP. And I don't mean like, oh man, they're gonna like write all the lore and change everything. No, like he basically can't let other people write stuff and just take an editorial role. He has to be the one to write it sometimes. And that is kind of the problem. Nasu's their golden goose. He's what's holding himself back. Yeah, he is. And to be fair, like chat, you need to look no further than we just had Hollow Ataraxia come out in English. Prior to that, we had Witch on the Holy Night and Fate Stay Night. Fate Stay Night finally officially came out in English, chat. After like almost 20 years. The only reason Fate Stay Night is popular in the West is due to piracy and fan translation, not due to him. It would not exist over here if not for that. And therefore, he would have never felt the need to translate it. Which is wild, right? Like, it's wild to say it's not due to Nasu who wrote the work. It's not. It would not have been popular without the efforts of people that liked it, bringing it over, making it popular, increasing the demand for it, and then finally Nasu saying, you know what, let's get this done. And still, Nasu only got it done due to Fate Grand Order. How do I know this? Because it's through Fate Grand Order that Nasu has Aniplex on his side, working with him through Aniplex of America, because it is the Aniplex of America localization staff that is translating all of it. So if not for that connection, none of this ever gets translated into English. How do we know this? Nasu himself in interviews has said he did not want to translate things over because of the quality issue. He knew it wouldn't get translated right. So he was waiting to find the right translator. And that would not have happened without FGO. So the most hilarious thing, and chat, I need to explain this to you. Nasu blaming FGO for not getting stuff done is the equivalent of somebody basically saying that gun shot me when they took the gun and shot themselves in the foot. It's them blaming the gun despite the fact that they pulled the trigger and controlled the aim and picked up the gun. Yes, it's a SIG. It's a SIG P320. That's what it is. But no, I'm dead serious, right? Like, it's such a frustrating thing to hear. I think it's one of those few things. I love Nasu. I love his works. But whenever Nasu blames FGO for his problems, chat, I remember, I'm not going to say who. If you know, you know, okay? There was an old content creator for FGO who quit FGO. When he quit, he blamed FGO for all of his problems. He said FGO was the reason that he had no money. FGO was the reason his girlfriend broke up with him. FGO was what was making him depressed and miserable. Have some fucking personal responsibility. It does not matter at the end of the day. Guns don't kill people. People die when they're killed by bullets. Yes, people die when they're killed. FGO killed my dog. Yeah. No, and that's the whole point, right? Like, whenever Nasu blames FGO for something, I just go like, holy shit, dude. Like, take some responsibility. Like, I get it. I understand. It's a major project. It takes up a lot of your time. We're all adults. I get it. I understand. And I think that's kind of why Nasu does it. I think Nasu gets tired of getting pressured by the other fan bases and goes like, it's FGO! That's the problem. I'm stuck here. And it's like, meanwhile, Nasu is sitting down there and like writing the next story as he's saying that. He needs to tell those writers to hurry stuff up. I mean, I've brought this up numerous times of like, what, like, why can't Nasu, despite all of the connections that he has, tap into some of that? Like, why can't he go like, hey, Narita, write me another chapter? And we all know why Narita can't. Narita's doing Strange Fake. But like, just as an example, right, of one of the writers that I know. So it's like, why doesn't he get somebody to write a new chapter and he just editorializes over the top? Because it sounds to me like, I think he does that, chat, but then he gets too involved. Have you ever had the like overbearing boss that's standing over your shoulder that's like, hey, do that. Do that too. Yeah, and do that one right there. That's what I think Nasu is. He just rewrites it anyways. Yes. I think that's what happens. I think Nasu actually just like, he tries to delegate and he can't. He can't do it. He has to like have control. He has to do it himself. I think, and the difference here is with the Star Rail stuff, for instance, that was another recent occurrence of him doing that. I think he couldn't have control of that. And so he had to like hard check himself. And I actually think that's why the story for that one's not as good. Right? And again, like I've heard people say it's trash. I've heard people say it's amazing. So I think like in general, it's mixed reviews. So that at least tells me that like, hey, yeah, there's maybe some issues with it. Right? My favorite thing is making BB Studio and then nothing comes out of it because they had bad planning. Yes, I think that's a classic example. But what it also sounds like, and hear me out, chat, those of you guys that have been around the Fate fandom for a long time, tell me I'm wrong. That Studio BB getting formed, then kind of going radio silent for years, saying that they're on track and then delaying, really is just yet another example of nothing happens properly without Nasu's involvement in the Type Moon, like, sphere of things. Tell me that's wrong. Because I feel like that's the actual truth. And yeah, I don't know if it's that he's backseating too much. I don't know if it's that nothing happens without his say. Like we've heard this about, for instance, Bethesda of late. Like that basically the problem is that Todd Howard, like the studio has grown so much and Todd Howard can't be in too many places at once. So it's like everything needs his approval. And at least in that case, I've heard some of the problems have been that they've had to go ahead without Todd Howard's approval on certain things. And that's maybe how some shit like doesn't end up at the higher quality that it should. So I think there's two polar opposite problems here. It's if they go ahead without approval, you get bad stuff. If they don't ever move ahead without approval, everything is delayed. And it's pick your poison. They said the delay was due to full VA and not enough time to finish VA work. True. Now, what if I told you, Strom, that Nasu sits in on every single VA recording session? Prove me wrong. Because I can cite numerous examples of where they're like, oh yeah, Nasu was in there and he was telling me this. Just say. Maybe he couldn't say for sure. Yeah, like, so I don't know, right? Like that's something that, God, to be a fly on the wall at Type Moon. Like, I get the feeling that it's one of those deals where it's like everybody needs Nasu, and Nasu's just like, please leave me alone. I just want to play Night Rain. I'm dead serious. I think that's how it is. It's possible it may have been on track and then something derpy happened. Yeah, it definitely is. But I'm also going to say this. When it comes to Studio BB, straight up, the reason why I suspect that's a lie and that possibility that I just said was possible is probably not actually. Studio BB gets formed. Studio BB announces the game. They announce, Fate Extra Remake, right? Studio BB starts their marketing cycle. They start promoting. They go radio silent. They say it's on track. And then they delay. Chat. The delay happens at the last possible moment. Always. Always in gaming. Always. They will always put off delaying a game if they don't have to. So the delay happens when they realize finally it is an unavoidable conclusion. So where did the issue happen, chat? Did it happen here? It happened when they stopped marketing and promoting the game all of a sudden. That was the oh shit moment when they shut the marketing down. Because they basically went, ah, crap. This is going to take a little bit longer. And what may have happened there, too, is it may have just been that they kind of knew it was going to take longer, and they just waited to announce it. And that's why they went like, it's delayed. So it is what it is. Otadesu, thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. And thank you for the follow. Welcome. Yeah, can we get some love? Nasa sounds like my mom complains nobody helps her. But when someone tries to do something, she's like, nah, I'll do it. Yeah, I totally feel that. I am not necessarily a control freak. I'm sure some people probably think that I am. But I think the only things that I'm controlling on are actually in a similar way to Nasu. Like when I want a like certain aesthetic or quality to happen. That's where I will take control of something. Okay. But otherwise, I do not mind delegating duties. I do not mind having people do stuff for me. In fact, talk to any of the mods. I will try to push off anything I can onto them. And not in the sense of like, I'm some lazy fuck. In the sense of, I am juggling too many things always. Never is not the case at this point. So I love to delegate when I possibly can. But I totally understand how it happens because there is a point too where, like, let's say you delegate something and then somebody goes, okay, I'll do this for you. I'm going to do this thing. And then they do that thing and it's bad, or they don't do the thing at all that they said they were going to do. Then you have to go, ah, crap, now I got to do it. And that happens a lot, I would say. Like as a streamer, if something doesn't get done to the specifications I want it to, this is a very much a, if you want it done right, do it yourself. So I can totally understand the, nah, I'll do it. I completely get that. But I'm not going to fault him for that. I'm simply going to state that over time, it seems like he really even struggles to delegate at all based off of his comments. Like, he's made comments before, again, about like the translation stuff where it's like, no, we're not translating anything until I find the right people. So I'm not even going to start trying this until I find the right person. And I guess it means all the people he does know that could translate it are not the right person. So that speaks a little bit more to perfectionism and control. And I'm not going to say that like he's anal retentive about it, but it could just be that it's a really big thing for him. Like and to be fair, do you blame him, chat? Why is FGO a game that we love to play? Why is the visual novels something that we like to read? Why are the animes something that we like to watch? It's because this is all a very well like created and manicured experience that just makes you love Fate. And a lot of that is just a like after effect of the hard work, the effort, and the quality that they made sure got put in during production. So it's like if there was no quality, you might not enjoy it as much. So it's just a double-edged sword. I can complain about it, but it's, I guess, me lamenting the what could be and what has been and what should be versus what shouldn't be. Like what happened with the MiHoYo anime? So many delays. Hey, you think that's bad? Ask Genshin fans. Where's that Genshin anime? They were all like, oh man, we're getting a Genshin anime from UFO Table. That has not happened. So like, I think it's just UFO Table is just super backed up. And I think the most troubling thing, you want to know where your MiHoYo movie is? Oh, it's easy. It's stuck behind them dragging out Demon Slayer for another 2 years, chat. I don't know if you guys heard, they're now like doing multiple movie parts and extending it out. It's like the whole Attack on Titan shit again. Like they're just literally dragging it out as long as they can. So yeah, I mean, ask yourself when the last Demon Slayer movie comes out. Add at least a year, and that is the fastest you will get MiHoYo. Which is also Nasu's fault. That is Nasu's fault, actually. Nasu is the... Nasu closely worked with UFO Table, and they trusted Nasu. So when they were looking to pick up a new project, Nasu recommended them the Demon Slayer manga, stating that the author was really good. And so they picked it up and they animated it, and now you are here. Ever since Nasu did that, they have been a one-trick pony. Though, to be fair, right, I think a big reason for that is also that, like, UFO Table, to me, like Nasu, seems to really go over the top with quality now. And so, like, they're not going to half-ass anything. And that's probably why it starts taking longer and longer and longer for them. I think Star Rail is getting a movie and MAPPA will be the ones animating it. That's interesting. MAPPA, to me, MAPPA's kind of hit or miss. They've had some really good projects, and then they've had some other things where I'm like, I'm not sure that the director that they chose was right because the pacing felt off. So, like, that could be really good or not, right? Like, I don't know. UFO Table's overrated? I don't think they are. I think at least in terms of quality and action, UFO Table is possibly goated. If nothing else, they're in consideration for it. But I think in other ways, like directing, pacing, cathartic feeling, right? Like that emotion that something gives you. In that regard, that I don't know. I think, like, yes, they're good to some degree, but who knows, right? Who knows why they're stalling things out? Maybe it is just that it's taking them longer. Maybe the studio is very tight knit and small. I don't know enough about UFO Table in that regard, other than, damn, they committed tax fraud. Kyo Annie could do a much better work with Type Moon. So the only issue that I have with that, because I would love to see something like that, right? Oh god, I bricked the Oberon. Fuck. Well, we gotta send this. Basically, the only issue I have with that is and hear me out, chat, tell me I'm wrong. Fate fans have a really high expectation both for animation quality and action now. And that's due in large part to UFO Table spoiling us. But I think there is a huge expectation that animations of fight scenes are like over the top. So I'm not going to say a studio like Kyo Annie couldn't do something like that, but they're, one, not necessarily as known for it, and two, quite literally, I just don't know that that would be something that they would go all out on unless specifically directed to. I hate Ryan. Thank you for the follow. Kyo Annie are mainly storytellers. Yeah. So in that regard, like, Kyo Annie, so hear me out, chat. Agree or disagree. Kyo Annie would do an amazing job with something like Case Files. Maybe less so with like a really gritty, action-y, like Grail War, right? I'm gonna die here, aren't I? Great. I'm gonna have to pop my seals on this. They really need to animate more of Case Files. Yeah, low-key, I kind of hate that they started in the middle of Case Files. They did not start at the beginning. And I think that kind of is one of the problems. I can't put her to sleep. Oh god, I can brick the unit and then squeeze out one more. Oh man. It's not gonna kill. When we get the ability to merge our account with Google, I don't know. It's one of the big things I've asked for is JP at least has a website that allows them to bind the account to that website. And that is definitely a lot better for account safety, but we're not sure when NA is going to bring it. So I didn't believe there. I knew that wouldn't kill. The only question is, can I get the kill? And I doubt it. I do have Olga here. Maybe, but... it is Ascension 1 Olga, too. Oh, that's weird. I have her in Ascension 1, but her cards are Ascension 3. But yeah, so it's like, whenever they decide to bring that website to the NA side is probably when we'll get it, but I don't know when. God, I hope so. Rip my old account. Yeah. You can go through their support services, Ryan, and try to see, like, if you can recover it. They'll have to ask you to answer some questions. Just Google, like, FGO account recovery guide, and you'll see there's several people that have like written a guide for like, hey, these are the things you need to get together to be able to like answer questions for support. Can you full card it out? Don't know. Don't know. We goes to try. The skill seal and NP seal is what's so annoying here. But this was not supposed to become a pseudo challenge fight. I just messed it up. An A event ends in 10 minutes? Yes, it does. Say Games also made that, but it's not the global version of Uma Musume, only on JP2. Yeah, Sai Games is involved in a lot of stuff now. Because they were sort of like the progenitors of a lot of the quote-unquote gacha stuff at this point. I hate doing that, but basically my only play. We just gotta keep trying to mighty chain her. It'd be nice if I could save the seals, but I don't think I can. I think I have to use seals on this. Like, she's just full charging the NP and it's getting really friggin' annoying. I maybe should have gone with a heal, but whatever. Trust in the president. Rage of Bahamut, anyone? Yeah, like, Sai Games is a pretty good animation department. Obviously, they've been involved in gacha games. God, there's another one that does a lot of that too, where, like, I forget which company it is, but you always see them mentioned in the lines of, like, animation stuff on, like, animes and things, where it's like they basically just are the backup. Oh, cool. Guess I'll die then. Oh, good. She didn't pop the guts. What am I even doing, dude? Like... Ha-ha! You use your passive? Yeah. Well, she is threat to humanity, so she should... Like, that's where the guts is coming from. But she probably still dies. Yeah, she's dead. That's a big oof, because I might have been able to kill. I might have been able to kill with that. If I had had one more turn, I might have been able to. Command seal me. You're not winning this one, Olga. I don't even need my full power to kill you. Does half AP OC quests in tomorrow? Half AP ordeal call quests? I don't know. We should be, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. Tonight we're getting the hunting quest, right? I didn't goof on the timing of that. Low-key, the daily refresh of command seals is one of the greatest quality of life. It really is. Like, I'm actually surprised that they made that change, because it feels like you use command seals, like, way more often now because of it. Whereas, like, before that, I'm not sure people, like people held on to their command seals instead. Okay, no Oberon with the right C, nor any Grand Oberon. Oh? Little fledgling MHX Grand, maybe? Oh, chat, hold on. Hold on. Before we forget. Oh, wait, no, this is... It's this server. I gotta do my story roll, chat. Okay, chat, this is the way it was supposed to go. Okay? It was supposed to go like this. Instead of a multi-turn fight where Olga slowly murders all of my units, I'm supposed to one-shot her. See? Easy. This is why I said, like, it's such a problem when you brick a unit with Oberon. It just makes the fight a real pain. Seems kind of sus. Hey, as long as it works. I do need to do that stuff, but I do also like that the game, like, that's what that green icon is. It's warning you that, like, hey, you have a free story summon. The devs are, like, slapping you across the face with it. They're like, please spend your free story summon, player. Like, and I actually think this is a good thing. This is a really good thing for player retention. Like, this will make people log in on a day-to-day basis because eventually this will lead to good things. So again, there you go. There's a 4-star CE, right? Like, new player account would love to have this. Your daily love potion or Mapo Tofu. Hey. For every daily love potion and Mapo Tofu, it will eventually turn into something grander, right? Yeah, let's touch double X here. Okay, so we already did the art stuff. I think I'll grab the arts chain there. And I'm probably... I guess we'll grab the base cards as well, because that's kind of important. Like, this is basically what determines how hard the follow-up cards hit in case I get a low roll. But I'm not even sure that the comp I'm using can get a low roll. It can just accidentally fuck up and get a brick. I've gotten 3 SSRs in a week from paid singles this summer. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That'll happen. Like, it's obviously, like, that's not going to happen every day, right? Like, that's definitely rare. That's awesome that you got that. But that does not surprise me that something like that happens. Because, like, chat, just think about, like, a time where you maybe got, like, a double. Or you got 3 units in rapid succession. Yeah, if you're rolling your paid single every day, stuff like that will happen. I got a Drake already with the daily story. Trust the plan. I do. Yeah, that's why I said, like, to me, I really just, I hope they make it permanent. I would be so happy. Because if they make that permanent on top of, like, everything else, FGO is so well off. Like, people can bitch about the gacha all they want, but it's, at this point, it's slowly over time becoming lies and slander. Like, the game really does take care of its players, and people are just upset over the amounts because they look at other games and go, but this other game has less amounts. And then the other game is not nearly as generous, though, with how much it gives the currency out. So it's like, I think that's something that people drastically underestimate about FGO. FGO is exceedingly generous at how much currency it gives to you. And I mean, shit, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of games, like, give out even close to the amount of currency we got with this anniversary. So that's a lot. Like, the fact that they gave out an entire pity, basically, is so freaking nice. I did it again. I did it again. Damn it. I'm not bricking it with Oberon this time. That's what got me in trouble. Is the grand system locked behind the class score? No. Like, yes, kind of, in the sense that, like, you have to have done the Ordeal Call prologue in order to even have access. So you have to have unlocked class score to have access to that. But is it locked in the sense of like you have to have completely done the class score. No. Not in the slightest. Oh, good. I got the damage resistance on her. And Mabe dies. Sure, it'd be nice if that got rid of the my fair soldier buff. So that I could use my skills again. Gonna do that. That should heal. Oh, it's just 150 to her. Damn it. Well, the good news is healing down should not have packed max HP up. "59 minutes and change remain." Yes. I need way more star unlock things. Yeah, no, that's what I was saying. Is like, I know, Strom, haven't you been doing like all of it up to like current? But like, I have not spent all of my currency, but I've never missed any currency, if that makes any sense. I'd like that Brave Chain, but I think this is the better play. But I might need to reset one of my complete ones to spin down the last... Spin down one last platinum unlocker? Wait, how does that make any sense? Why would you need to reset in order to do that? But yeah, it's like, I assume we still don't have the actual Stardust to do them all. Because, like, based off the initial calculations that I ran earlier this year, when they were first coming out with the grand system, by the end of the year, we would have had enough for 7 grands. Like 7 full grand scores, 7 sets of unlockers, and enough Stardust for 7. Not 9. So we would have naturally gotten some extra unlockers and stuff from that stuff, but like from getting the extra stuff, but still probably not enough. Like, that's what I'm thinking is like, I don't think you'll be able to have a complete class score by the final chapter, but maybe we're wrong. It's the torches that roadblock right now. Yeah. It's rough. Oh, so you had it split. I got you. Wait, she just MP? Did I miss that? I could have gone with the MHX chain there, but I think it's better to do this. I mean, this is already a better spot than I was in before, so... Especially because we got way more use out of Proto Merlin. But unfortunately, I think with the next NP here, you Olga probably stack wipes. Or at least, like, kills everybody other than herself. Oh, fuck you! See, that's what I'm talking about. Sometimes the AI does some bullshit, man. There we go. Get rid of all the defense downs. And I guess we just take the arch chain here. Try to get Olga back to an NP. Because, like, every NP MHX gets off is, like, bringing me that much closer to killing her. Yeah, does the drop rate sees increased work in hunting quest? Yes, it's actually the best time for it. Yep. I think Earn's spreadsheet talks about it. You can find that on the video that I did covering it or on the Discord. God damn it, dude. Shit's so ass, man. So she probably kills and guts pops me. I think we're just shy again. I don't think there's any way that I pull this off. It's also like those defense stacks that she has are just making this rough as the fight goes on. Dude, the stun is just fucking evil, man. That is so fucking evil. All right, that's an actual failure. Unless I want to spend a quartz, and I really don't think that's worth a quartz. Blah, 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 blah. So, I tried. But yeah, she had, like, the perfect turn that she killed Proto Merlin on. That made me unable to sustain anymore. And Proto Merlin literally would have had her MP right there. So, it is what it is. But all right, chat. I'm going to pop one more and go back in for revenge. But we're going to end it here. Let me see who all is on. We can give some love to. Chat, we will raid Shin. I don't think I've gotten to raid Shin before. He's on. It is Matahari Day, so let's go give him some love. Did I spell that right? I think I did. That's Shin? That's Shin. Okay. All right, chat. I will be back tomorrow, hopefully with more of the Famitsu interview. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't already, follow the Twitch here. Follow me on Twitter. Join the Discord and subscribe on the YouTube. I will see you all tomorrow. Go give Shin my love. Later.